Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Sorry about my little slip of the finger there on the intro outro. I'm Davey Deathray, and I am joined today by SHEARANTS. We are going to be talking about our top 5 best and worst horror movie remakes. Thanks for reaching out, Shay, and throwing this idea out there. Yeah, I saw you on Flet's Movies and Pop Culture 13 the other week. And really appreciate you reaching out and wanting to put a little something together. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on. I saw you in Jake's chat not long ago. So I wanted to just see what your channel was, and then I saw that you do similar content, and I just wanted to reach out.
Yeah, hell yeah, man, awesome. And you've been doing this. You said you've been doing YouTube for a handful of years, but really focusing on, like the horror stuff for about a year now. Is that right?
Yeah, just around a year.
Hell yeah. So yeah, guys, you've got, if you're watching on my channel over here, links in the description below. I would imagine they're over there on yours, Shay, unless you change the description yourself. But if you guys haven't subbed over or, checked Shay's channel out, there's a link in the description below. And a couple links for socials for Insta and Twitter as well. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be fun because there's a relatively big age gap between myself and Shay, but he's got tastes that are, all over the spectrum as far as, horror timeline goes. And you guys know, everyone that's coming over here, that's hopping into my lives all the time, like, you guys know I have some blind spots. So I'm not going to be ranking anything that I haven't seen. I don't want to be unfair. Even if a remake's been maligned like for years and years, I'm not going to put it in my list unless it's something that I've seen. So we'll be fair as far as that goes. And yeah, let's say what's up to everyone in the chat here. We've got Chubby Toad, and Chubby Toad looks like they're watching over there on your channel, Shay. Welcome to the chat, Chubby Toad.
You're welcome.
Cody Snyder, one of our Death Squad mods here on the channel, says 86,000 seconds. Didn't know there was such a thing. Is that how it revealed itself to you on YouTube, Cody? It was like, hey, in 86,000 seconds, the stream's going to start. So you better start counting. What's happening, Necro? How are you doing? Guys, if you don't follow Necro on Insta, he does some really cool thumbnails, really creative shit. What's happening, Lamontre? Great to see ya. Big Rod, how you doing, my guy? One of our great channel members. We've got Gina, otherwise known as my chunky Jordy, another one of our great channel members, and over there on the other side of the pond with you there, Shay. Don't forget to send the like button some love, everyone. Yeah, guys, hit that like. Go ahead and jump on over to the stream on Shay's side and hit the like as well and give him some of those much needed watch hours. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, why not hit the subscribe button? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Shay, you're less than about 300 away from hitting 1K, right?
Yeah, just around that, I think.
Awesome,
I haven't checked today.
It just takes some time. Like, I've been doing this for about 14 months now. We just hit 1K last night during a stream. It was really awesome. Everyone's support has been absolutely amazing. And as you just meet more and more people and do more collaborations, and one thing that I've taken away from other YouTubers I watch is like really involving that audience and building a community on your end. You'll find that those subs come over, and the support on YouTube is just amazing. So yeah. Absolutely. Chubby Toad says you could say -1 is a remake. Yeah, it kind of is. It's sort of like that reboot remake. I didn't even think about that. I know it has some like horror tinge to it. I don't think of the Godzilla movies as necessarily horror movies. But if somebody told me that they thought it was, like, I wouldn't fight it. Kind of like Jaws. I'm a huge Jaws fan. It's my favorite movie of all time. So I don't call it a horror movie, but if somebody else does, I'm like, I think that's fair. It's got, monster creature feature kind of elements. What's happening, Gene? Great to see ya. We got the guys from Twisted Locker. This must be Curtis. They're out there in Wales. So, another UK folk in the chat here. Thank you so much for showing up, guys. And thank you for the congrats on 1,000 subs. I'll be doing a celebration stream later on, so we can have some fun with that later on today. Gina gifts a membership, and that one goes to Carbonite Dreams. Welcome to the fold, Carbonite Dreams. Hell yeah. And then we've got Chris Schober hopping on over from SHEARANTS channel. Hey, I just watched Scream 6 today. What did you think of Scream 6? Shay, I don't know what you think of it. I was kind of disappointed. I was liking the first two
Yes, I was.
and then the killer reveal just really all I could think about for the rest of the runtime of the movie is how much bullshit I thought the reveal was.
Yeah, I was pretty much the same. I don't like the killer reveals for it. I also just kind of didn't like how Nev wasn't in there.
Yeah, I think there's something up with me and Radio Silence. I feel like they sort of like I give them like a C plus every movie I've seen of theirs. Where it's like they're mostly like satisfying the things I want, but it feels like they're not really doing anything new or pushing anything in another direction. Like even Abigail I enjoyed, but I wasn't head over heels with Abigail like I think a lot of people were. There were elements I really loved, but yeah.
I mean, they spoiled the twist in the trailers, so I don't know what they were doing there.
Well, my whole thing is like, I'm cool if you're going to spoil the twist in the trailer, that's fine. But when I sat down in the theater, the first kill doesn't happen until you're like 35 minutes in. And I'm like, okay, so if I already know she's a vampire, like let's get to it. Like let's roll with it. It had some fun elements. I really like the sort of House on Haunted Hill 1999 vibe of like the group of random strangers being stuck in a place together. Like that was pretty cool. I like the gore, kind of reminded me of like From Dusk Till Dawn or Evil Dead. I'm a massive Evil Dead fan, obviously. But yeah, we can save that chat for another time. But Taranga Fry, what's happening? Hopping on over from Insta, one of our Insta followers over there. The worst is what I'm more interested in. Yeah, should we start with we didn't even talk about this, Shay. Do you want to start with the worst or do you want to start with the best?
I mean, I'd say maybe start with the worst and go to the best, just so that we get like the bad stuff out there, then we can get to something good.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, we can rinse our mouths out with the good stuff at the end.
Yeah.
Chubby Toad, you just gotta keep it up. It's kind of a grind, and I would just say make sure you're always enjoying what you're doing. If it feels like a pain in the ass, then it's time to switch directions. Cheating on Fatchy Cinema again. How are you doing, Matt? Matt's one of my good friends here on YouTube. Absolutely, yeah. Cheating on you all the time, Matt. But we'll be doing a stream on Monday, so don't worry. Drop a link for the channel. Yeah, Cody, if you can drop a link for Shay's channel, that would be great. Scream 6 killer reveal was kind of weak. Yep. We won't spoil it. We won't talk about it in depth or anything. We'll get to that, I'm sure. There we go. Now everyone's talking about Scream 6. Favorite horror of the year for Facci? I think mine is still Late Night with the Devil. I had a lot of fun with that one. Yeah, it's not like scary. I was really sucked into it. What's happening, Adrian? All right, cool. So we've said what's up to everyone. We might as well just kind of get going here. We're going to start with the worst. And maybe I can do a little, how about this? Let's see, there we go. Boom, we've got that there. And how about I create a little banner for us? This is how we do it. Totally professional here at the Davey Deathray channel. Top 5 worst horror. That way, if people watch this after the fact, they can kind of have an idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about them. So boom, there it is. Top 5 worst horror movie remakes. All right. And yeah, what we can do is we can kind of go through ours. Guys, if you want to get involved in the chat, let us know either what you think about our picks or what you would put as your 5th and 4th and 3rd and 2nd and 1st, all that good stuff. And if you're watching after the fact, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to click that like button, subscribe over to Shay's channel, subscribe over here if you haven't yet, and let us know what your top 5 best and worst horror movie remakes are in the comments section. So yeah, Shay, you're the guest here. So how about you go ahead and give us your number 5 worst horror movie remake?
So just because I watched it recently again, because it was like 15 years old the other day. I rewatched Halloween 2 with Rob Zombie, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I just find it very boring at some points. They turn Michael into like a hobo for like 45 minutes. Then they've also just got like I can't remember. Is it like a dream? Because shows up in real life at the end of the movie, but they got like his mum and the horse.
Yeah, it's like in his
then,
head. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing that confused me because it's like, is it in Michael and Laurie's head? Because they do share a connection, so I guess yeah. But I just find it very bad. A lot of like the parts which could have been good in it, they just sort of messed up. For example, like Loomis is just like an asshole in this movie.
Yes.
Well, he doesn't become an asshole, like he becomes like a lunatic in the later movies, but still, I just didn't really like anything in this movie.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm actually a really big fan of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I'm not the biggest fan of his remake, but I'm going to put a poll up for everyone. I think this might be kind of fun to do. Everyone we do to do a poll. So the original one was 1981, right? So 1981, and then Halloween 2 from let's see here, 2009. Yeah, I really enjoy Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, but I totally get what you're saying. It's a movie that takes a lot of chances, right? So it's a movie that he's really swinging big on this one because he finally gets to like kind of make his own Halloween movie and make his own image of Michael and everything. Yeah, I think as the closer that Laurie and Michael get to each other, the more that like Laurie starts to become like Michael. And I think that's what they're saying with her starting to have the visions of Mommy Dearest and the horse. And yeah, I mean, Loomis being a jerk, it is one of those things where it's like, I guess it's sort of like a modern take. Like, you know, we were talking about, you had mentioned Dr. Phil before we went live, talking about Scary Movie 4, I think it was.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's kind of what they're doing is like the Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, like, you know, the person that has like, yeah, they come from like medicine, but then they end up becoming like a celebrity and how it can sort of turn them into like a different person. But I totally get what you're saying. I didn't even think about that one because I guess, you know, technically it is a remake, even though it sort of just also works as like its own sequel as well. So I'm curious. I would not be surprised if the original Halloween 2 just completely dominates this poll. There's 5 votes and it's 100% Halloween 2 from 1981, which is a very beloved sequel for sure. And Chris Schober yeah. Chris Schober says Rob Zombie Halloween hobo scene was kind of boring. And then Gina says, I don't mind Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, but that mask, yeah, it's completely fallen off. It is, yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, you either love it or you hate it, I think, with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And I'm a big, like, for me, it's kind of in the middle of my ranking. Like, I really enjoy it, but there's certainly a lot of other movies in the franchise that I enjoy more. What's happening, Ryan? Great to see you. Andrew Stevens, welcome to the chat. Love seeing you in here as well. Andrew's one of our great patrons here at the channel. Gene picks Halloween 2 1981 as well. And that one is crushing the poll with 7 votes at 100% for the original Halloween 2. So we might as well just end that poll right there. And my number 5 worst horror remake, Child's Play 2019. That's my number 5. I know a lot of people enjoy this one. The first time I tried to watch it, I turned it off after the opening scene. I thought that was such bullshit. Right away, right out of the gate, I was like, "Oh, you really screwed this one up," because they basically, it's almost like a Simpsons did it sort of moment where there's that classic Halloween episode of The Simpsons with the evil Krusty doll. And at the end, they turn it around and realize that there's a switch on the back for evil and good. Yeah. And it was switched to evil the whole time because you have this disgruntled software programmer, I guess, that basically flips an evil switch on one of the buddy dolls or whatever. And then he jumps out of a window and, like, you know, offs himself, which I thought was completely bizarre. And then, you know, the rest of the movie is like, I do think that I like the idea of having like a technology tinged Chucky doll. It's kind of cool. It's modern. I appreciate that. I like that Andy's a little bit older and they make it a little more complex with him, you know, having maybe he's been getting picked on with his hearing aid and everything. He's having a tough time making friends. I like that angle. But this movie takes a really long time for like the action and the kills to start getting going. It tries to make you sort of sympathize with the buddy doll. Like, oh, he's just looking out for his friend. And then Aubrey Plaza is the mom. Like, I like that in the original, the mom is like not a dummy. I think the mom's kind of dumb in this movie, and she's like just as obsessed with her phone as the kids are with their devices as well. So I feel like sort of absentee mom. And I wish that weren't that way. Kind of nightmare fuel with the Chucky doll too. The CG face is just a bit odd. So I'm going to put a quick poll up in here. Another which do you prefer? And I'll just do Child's Play original and do Child's Play remake and see what everyone says. Am I wrong about the Child's Play remake? I know everybody likes it. What do you think about it, Shay?
Well, spoiler, that's actually my number 4. I don't like it at all. I think it's just a load of crap. It's not particularly like terrible, but the thing is it's just a plot that's been used over and over and over now. Like, we've got Megan, which is the exact same thing. And now we're getting just a lot of other AI movies. It just feels a bit just like overused now.
Yeah.
Also, I agree with this. I should have just called it something else. It's not really Child's Play at all, besides from like in name and a few of the characters' names.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things where like they wanted to use enough of the elements that were so close to Child's Play that you had to call it that. But yeah, I mean, especially when you compare it to the original Child's Play, which is almost like a gritty cop drama with this like voodoo doll kind of element. And the original Child's Play has a totally different feel than any of the other movies in the franchise. I mean, even the sequel, which I love Child's Play too, but it totally feels different. Like Chucky has a lot more personality even in the second film, and you can already sort of see them making that shift away from something that seems relatively grounded. I mean, as grounded as a killer doll movie can be, I would say, with the original. And one of my favorites for sure. Like, I love the original Child's Play. When I was a kid, Chucky was, I wanted the My Buddy doll because of Chucky. So that one was a big one for me. I think I saw that movie the first time when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and it was just very, formative as far as being, becoming a horror fan. So yeah, I mean, Child's Play. So yeah, Child's Play 2019, that's my number 5. And for Shay, that's his number 4. So we did a little cross cancelization there, and we're able to sort of consolidate on that one. And I guess we'll see what the polls say. And so far, 86% out of 7 votes are saying the original versus 14% on the remake. So that's a landslide as well for the original versus the remake. And we got one of our other Death Squad mods in here, Jamie Hart. How you doing, Jamie? Great to see you in the chat. If you're able to, Jamie, if you can share the link or I think, did that already get shared in the chat? I think it may have already gotten shared. The link for Shay's channel. Feel free to share that every once in a while there. And I think Shay, you can do a poll over on your own YouTube tab, but it's okay. I got it. I can take care of the polls and everything. Don't do AI, so never bothered watching. Yeah, I didn't watch it for a really long time, Gina. Well, right here, Jamie says she prefers the remake. That's because when the OG Child's Play came out, I was 15 and it just didn't scare me. Yeah, never been a big fan. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, if the first one doesn't make a big impression on you, then there you go. Yeah, I thought it was kind of a bit slow to get going and all that. Castellar Danielle Garcia brings up a really one that I've heard a lot of, but unfortunately I haven't seen this movie before, so it's not going to show up on my list, but who knows, maybe Shay has it on his. We don't know each other's lists, so we'll just see how it all shakes out, but I've heard great things about that remake. Absolutely. There we go. All right, Taranga Fry with dropping their top 5 worst there. Here we go. Just want to catch up with everyone. We got Dark Room Reviews in the house. What's happening? Horror and stuff in the chat as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Just want to make sure we acknowledge these folks as they jump in. And let's see here. So we've gotten your 5 and your 4 and my 5. These are good. Yeah, these are great. Those are both top notch right there. My number 4 worst horror remake is A Nightmare on Elm Street from 2010. This one was a friggin' struggle to get through for me.
Yeah.
I felt like a lot of the acting was really weak, other than like Kyle Gallner and who's the woman that plays the lead? What's her name? I always forget her name. Everyone says that she like had a terrible time working on the film, but I think her performance is good in the movie. I just think the writing on this film
Yeah.
is kind of a mess. It's like it's almost like they halfway want to do their own take on Freddy and give it a different perspective. And like maybe he was innocent, but they just got revenge anyways because the mob felt like he was guilty. But then they like pull it all back at the end and they make it even
Yeah.
worse than the original with like the pictures that they find. They also, so it's like half of like a new vision, half of a direct like shot for shot remake. I feel like there's sort of an identity crisis here. And I kind of,
Yeah.
I'd rather have them pick a lane. And for me, like the big thing with this movie, with the Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, is while I do think that Jackie Earle Haley is a fantastic actor, I think he's very miscast here. I think the writing for Freddy is really weak. He's not scary to me at all. Like, even though they do the thing with the voice and it seems like maybe on paper the lines seem scary, but it just, to me, Freddy really doesn't work here. And maybe it's the fact that it is a household name actor. Because, you know, Robert wasn't a star when he became Freddy. That's the movie that made him a star. I'd rather see somebody that's like relatively unknown so I can suspend my disbelief and really like get creeped out by Freddy.
Yeah.
So that's really what doesn't work for me in this movie. I think it's got like a bit of a maybe overly slick look as well. It doesn't have the grit that some of the remakes on my best list have. And yeah, it just really fell short. But I know it has its fans. What do you think of a Nightmare on Elm Street 2010?
So for me, I really don't like it. It's somewhere on my list, but it isn't my next one, thankfully. So yeah, pretty much. I don't like how they pretty much just say that Freddy was a kiddie fiddler at the end. That sort of
Yeah.
ruined it more for me.
Mhm.
The CGI is terrible. Like, why do like CG? This is like my issue with like that like prequel to the thing in like 2011 or whenever it was. They used
Yeah.
CGI when they could have just used practical effects.
Well, and they did use
They
practical
did,
effects, and then
and
they
then they
had them
got
put
rid of them.
CG over it, which is like even
Yeah,
more shameful. That's even worse, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, and you're right. Some of the things, especially even like Freddy pushing through the wall, like, okay, so they did that practically in
yeah,
1984. And if you can't make it look better with CG, then why not just do it the way they did it in 1984? Or
yeah.
call me crazy, maybe don't put that shot in your movie. Maybe come up with your own kind of shot, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. If you're gonna do a new movie, you should do something different.
Mhm.
Like as you said, I do like Jackie Earle Haley. Like he's a good actor, but he's not a good Freddy. They could have literally
Mhm.
gotten anyone else for the role, and it probably would have been better. But at the same
Mhm.
time, I don't specifically blame him because the script is shit.
Sure.
So it's not his fault.
Yeah. Yeah, not his fault. I would never blame an actor, even if I think they're miscast. It's like, well, that's somebody's job to cast the actors, and it's somebody else's
Yeah,
job to write everything. So really, he's just there to, you know, put that performance in there. I mean, even the makeup, which is more realistic looking, just doesn't like maybe what we want in our horror movies is something that's not really realistic. Like maybe that's why the
yeah,
look um you know, Freddy is just so much better in the originals is because it's a little more outlandish, you know. Pat brings up a good one here that I didn't even think about. But yeah, the Psycho remake is pretty boring for sure. Bored the hell
yeah,
out of me. And I'm not even like, I love Hitchcock. I would say out of his movies, like Psycho is maybe my third or fourth favorite out of the movies of Hitchcock's that I've seen. I think it's good and everything. I'm glad it exists because it influenced so many other films, but I'm relatively lukewarm on that one. Let's see here. Just want to make sure we're catching up. And welcome to the chat, by the way, Pat. And thank you so much for the channel membership that you gifted to me just last night. Really appreciate you, man. And of course, welcome to Happy Sanjo, one of our great channel members. This guy just keeps on gifting channel memberships and dropping super chats. So really appreciate you for jumping in, Koi. And yeah, guys, Koi just started a channel about a month ago. So if you haven't gone over and given him a sub, go and check his channel out and think about giving him a sub. Let's see here. Big Rod says, I definitely agree with the little to slick comment on A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, it felt like from the makers of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah, it just felt a little clean, I think. That was, there was the grit of like the, some of the other movies we'll get to here. And then there was the slickness of like, some of these other remakes that just seem a little, I don't know. I don't know if it's made for TV or they're just trying to attract an audience that aren't really horror fans. And then, yeah, Jamie Hart kind of, echoing what we're saying about Jackie Earle Haley being such a good actor. And there's just nothing to really do here for him, unfortunately. All right. So let's see here. You're number 3, right? We're on number 3 for you.
Yeah. So my number 3 is I believe it's 2015 version of Martyrs. It's just pretty much just the same movie, but like in English, and it doesn't really have the same feel as the French version. Like, I'm British. I dog the French every now and then. I just do, but
you gotta dog the French. Everyone worldwide dogs the French, right? Running away from wars and everybody else saving their bacon. Yeah, or bacon.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, but I mean, I think the original film is one of the best, early 2000s kind of like horror movies, similar to like Hostel, Saw, and things like that. But I just don't know why I didn't really specifically like this one. I just felt that it just didn't have any of like the same grit or like sort of like really just depressing mood that the original movie had.
Yeah.
Like, even in the ending scene, I just didn't enjoy it at all. Like, spoilers for, I guess, both Martyrs movies, but the bit where they're like skinned and then like they're supposed to see beyond like death, even that bit just felt a bit boring to me. Like, it just didn't even like look right as well. But I watch a lot of gory movies. Like, I like me a good bit of gore, and even with that, I just didn't like feel anything with that. It just felt a bit boring.
And I've never seen the remake of that one because I loved the original so much. That to me is such a tall order to try to remake that movie because it is very bleak and a difficult watch, but a really like beautifully made film as far as, that kind of material goes and how tough that is. I felt like even though they had the extreme gore, I do think that there was something going on with the narrative that was really intriguing with Martyrs. And so when I heard that they were remaking it, I was like, why? Like, just re-release it. We can read subtitles. Like, when I watched it, I read the subtitles. Like, I'm fine with that. I'd rather see the genuine article than somebody trying to do like a cover version of it and try to capture that magic, because I think with Martyrs, the performances are just so good. The reveal moments, and just, it's a movie that kind of jerks you around a little bit. And just, you really put yourself in the spot of, the main character there. And it's got this interesting concept of, like you're saying, like that you reach this level of pain that you see something beyond what we see here on Earth because you're between life and death. And it's such an interesting concept that, I just stayed away from that remake because I'm like, how could you? Not like how could you, but like, really tell me, like, how could you improve on this? Like, even like with the Let the Right One In, I was sort of like, why are they why would you even remake this? Like, just put it out in America with subtitles. Like, it's great as it is.
I feel like the thing which they could have done with it, they could have literally just done like what they did with, for example, I guess Hostel Part 2. Get a new cast, keep it in the same setting, and just make a different movie. Technically, you could sort of finish off the story from the first one in the first 5 minutes, like they sadly do with Hostel Part 2, but do something different at the same time. Like, the kills in that one are different. They're disgusting, but like still, the kills in that one are different. The story is different, and it's from a different perspective. Like, the first one was from like a frat bro, like dickish kind of perspective, and like the second one's from like a different perspective. Like, these are like entirely different people just like going to this place for a different reason as well.
Yeah, and it sounds like I haven't seen it yet, but it sounds like with the Speak No Evil remake that just came out, it sounds like
Yeah,
that's kind of what they did, is sort of, it's got the same, like, core is similar to the original, but they took it in some different directions, to where even though this one's coming out just 2 years after the original, it sounds like, from everything I'm hearing, that it stands on its own and that it goes for something
yeah,
a little bit different than what the original does, which I think you have to do. You have to carve out your own space, right? It's just like what we do here on YouTube. If you sit there and do the same exact thing that somebody just did on their channel because you liked what they did, it's like you need to find your own kind of like perspective or unique way to sort of
yeah.
tackle that concept. And I think, yeah, with Martyrs, it's something Manny's Manic Media says here. Some things can never be recreated. Martyrs is one of them for sure. And yeah, I can only imagine. I'm not, like I said, I haven't seen the remake, and I probably won't, because I mean, Martyrs was really difficult as is, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sully that at all. Thank you so much, Ryan. Really appreciate you. Yeah, it feels good. It feels good to get past that milestone, and it's time to press the pedal to the metal and keep on going. Chubby Toad asks, what's your favorite horror movies just in general? Do you want to take that one really quick, Shay?
Well, I can't specifically pick one, so I guess I'll just go the original Scream. Let me just look at my DVD collection. Hang on. I like Saw X. That film's great. And then I guess I don't know, something else that I can't name right now.
I'm kind of a
yeah.
basic bitch, Chubby Toad. I would say, like, I love the original Halloween. Day of the Dead from 1985, George Romero's Day of the Dead, is my favorite zombie film of all time. And let me go with something, Evil Dead right there. Evil Dead's one of my favorite. Like the original, I know a lot of people love the other. Like, I love all the films in the franchise, of course. But there's something about that original one. Dead by Dawn was my favorite when I first watched them, but then the more I watched them, I was like, man, this first movie is just punk as fuck. Like, it's just amazing. Yeah, so let's see if anybody else has got I love Day of the Dead. So underrated. Yeah, I heard my whole life, oh, it's so terrible, it's such a bad movie, and then I watched it and I was like, this is the best one. So let's see here. We are at I believe it's my number 3. I can't believe that this one is as high as it is. Do you have did your cat bust into the room there, Shay?
My sister's busted into the room.
Shay's sister busted in, like, you got to pick up your underwear in the bathroom. Come on, Shay. So yeah, guys, my number 3 for worst horror movie remake, and maybe, oh, actually, yeah, sorry, I almost made a mistake there. My number 3 is going to be The Fog from 2005 with Tom Welling, Selma Blair, and I'm sure some other people whose names I can't remember, because this movie is really, really bad. This is like, seems like something that they shot over a weekend. It's, Tom Welling, I like him in Smallville. I thought he got better as an actor as the series went on, and that's always great to see. I just don't know if Tom Welling's really like a movie caliber actor. There's certain actors that, for me, Jensen Ackles, David Boreanaz, I'm like, you guys are meant for TV, and whenever you're in a movie, you stick out like a sore thumb. I think Tom Welling sticks out here. I think the movie, again, going back to that overly slick kind of look, something that's made for teenagers, but teenagers that aren't really into horror kind of movie. And man, I mean, anytime you kick off your like opening credits with Fall Out Boy, like, you've lost me. Like, you've absolutely lost me. And this not only that, like, and I don't mean this as a personal thing against Selma Blair at all, because I know she's she's going through her own like personal struggle and everything, with her illness, and I wish her nothing but the best, and that kind of stuff is heartbreaking. Her performance here, and maybe it was from the director that wanted her to do this, but I felt like her performance as the radio host, there was just like, where's the passion, where's the radio voice, like I feel like that character should sort of be an anchor that, like, holds the story down. And in this film, I really don't get that from her. So, so yeah, my number 3 is The Fog from 2005. Have you seen that one, Shay?
I've not seen that. I've not seen the original. Also, apologies for that. My sister wanted something, and I don't even have it. So, yeah.
No worries, man. Hey, life happens, and yeah, no worries at all. We're this is just for fun. So yeah, no big deal. Yeah, the original Fog is great. And I guess I've been slacking on the polls. I totally missed it on Martyrs. So let's do.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, just for the Fog original. I love the original Fog. I mean, and I guess when I say I love it, there's nothing like, when you're talking John Carpenter movies, it's not as wild and zany as his other films. But it has some really good, to me, it's sort of like a really good, like, campfire tale, a really good gateway horror. If you're looking for something that's like, you want to show your nephew or your little brother or something like that, or just some sort of like kind of easy to watch, like spooky movie to put on during the spooky season. The Fog is great. The soundtrack by John Carpenter is awesome. Plus you have like Adrienne Barbeau, Tom Atkins, Jamie Lee Curtis. You've got some great 80s horror actors there. So while the original Fog is nothing that I wouldn't put it in my top 3 John Carpenter films, it's still really good. And this just seems like a phoned in cash grab,
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I wrong? Let me know in the chat, everybody. Or if you're watching after the fact, let me know in the comment section. We've got 100% for the original out of 4 votes. So yeah, it seems like everyone's on board with loving the original Fog over the remake. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's an easy one. That's just that's an easy one to just skate by. Just like Castellar Danielle Garcia says here, the remake of the Fog is garbage. Yeah, it sucks all joy from life. Absolutely. And then we're on to number 2 for you. Number 2 worst horror movie.
So, I mean, let me just. Oh, I've lost it. Oh no, it's right here. So, just for context, I do own this one. So, Rob Zombie's Halloween. I don't like the backstory they try to give him. Like, it's Michael Myers. He's not supposed to have like a backstory. Well, he sort of does, but like, all we know is just he went mad, killed his sister. A few years later, pretty much, he's broken out of a psychiatric ward and he's back to murdering people. That's all we know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't need anything else. I just want to watch a guy kill people when I want to watch a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
I don't need like Michael murdering a rat and being like shouted at by his like stepdad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to watch that anyway. I don't.
Yeah.
I like a lot of Rob Zombie's movies. You have to be in a mood to watch a Rob Zombie movie.
That's true.
I feel like they're just a subgenre in their own, but I don't enjoy this. It's just probably one of like the worst like remakes that I've seen. But at the same time, it's not particularly bad. It's just barely like Halloween.
Yeah.
They also
this one
Spy Kids in this movie, which
oh yeah, no, he gets his ass beat. Yeah. I mean, and he deserves it. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the way that Rob Zombie writes his movies, he uses some really difficult language.
Yeah.
Which I think there's nothing wrong with using it as long as it's as long as it seems like realistic and properly motivated. Sometimes I think Rob takes it a little bit too far to where it starts to feel a bit absurd. And I'm sure there are people out there that talk like that, but in Rob Zombie's movies, everyone talks like that. It's sort of like, I don't know if you're a Kevin Smith fan, but at some point with Kevin Smith movies, I'm like, every character talks like Kevin Smith. Like, maybe different characters should sort of talk a little bit differently and have like their own kind of voice and their own character. And I feel like that's one of the struggles in a lot of Rob Zombie's work is the script. I mean, visually, he knows how to direct movies.
Yeah.
He's very successful with music. So he is a very accomplished, successful, artist. And I really appreciate what he does. But I feel like maybe the assignment was a little wrong here for him to do a remake of Halloween. So I mean, this one, I guess I'll spoil what my last 2 are by saying that this one is not on my worst list. I thought about putting it at number 5, but I felt like that was a little harsh just when I thought about the other ones that are out there that are, that really stumble. Because I do think that, the last 45 minutes of this movie, when it becomes a remake of John Carpenter's classic, I do think there's some things that really work here for me. I don't like. I love Tyler Mane. I don't really like Michael being 6'7" or 6'8".
No.
I think like one of the things that makes Michael scary to me is the fact that he's like a normal guy that just has some sort of supernatural strength that can't really be explained. I like that about Michael. Like you were saying, I don't need the backstory. I don't need him killing animals like the way that real serial killers start by killing animals and then start killing people. I like the idea that something just woke up in Michael at some point and just told him to do that, and we don't need to know anything else about him.
Yeah.
But I do think that seeing the Strodes get killed in the remake, I think is one of those things where I'm like, well, that's an interesting, like, we don't get any of the Strodes really in the original other than Daddy Strode saying like, goodbye to, Lori in the morning. And I think that scene in particular, when Michael kills the Strodes, feels very visceral and very real. And I think like I would say probably my favorite scene in the movie, just because it feels like something that would kind of fit the original a little bit. So yeah. But yeah, I'm one of those freaks. I know you'd mentioned Halloween 2 already. I like his remakes or the sequel so much more than the remake. The remake's at the bottom of my list right there with Resurrection. So, and let's see here. We got Big Rod dropping a $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Big Rod, saying 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations, Davey. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you hanging out. I think, Big Rod, you found the channel through Sledgehammer Horror. So now is a great time to just thank all the other collaborators that have had me on their channel, shouted me out, or been guests on the channel over here to bring over great folks like you, Big Rod. So really appreciate the super chat and you being an awesome member of the community here. And Castellar Danielle Garcia, this is an interesting one, and I don't want to say anything just in case it ends up on one of our lists later. I don't consider the 2013 Evil Dead a remake, but I know that that's how it was marketed. So I think fair is fair. If you consider it a remake, just like considering Jaws a horror, I'm not gonna hate on that for sure. I think it's fantastic. I do agree.
I mean,
yes,
you can say it's like a reboot technically because it isn't like the same story. It's different.
Yeah, and they, you see Ash's car in the background. And clearly it's the same cabin. It just seems like it's a little more modern. I think there's certain things in the story that let you know that even the book is a little bit different, which then they even further explained in Evil Dead Rise, which I think is one of the best things they did in Evil Dead Rise, is they really expanded the lore. And now we know that 3 different books exist in that in that world, which is really exciting. But that's a topic for a different day. Rob Zombie's Halloween is the redneck version of Halloween. It certainly is that. I mean, Rob Zombie's Anything is the redneck version of what that is. Chris owns the same DVD that SHEARANTS, the Halloween Zombie, the uncut. Yeah. I've got the one that's I have that box set. I got the smaller version of the box set. I didn't get the big old thing. But yeah, it's I like the director's cuts of his films more for sure. Even if they have some more bad stuff in them, I think there's more good than bad. Jamie just can't get over the Fog remake. Let's see here. Burnt Offerings. I've never heard of that one, so maybe it does deserve a remake. According to most people, The Grudge is the worst remake. Well, let's see if it ends up on one of our lists. I have seen, you know what? I don't think I've seen the remake of that, so I guess I just gave it away that it won't be on my list.
Is that the 2021 or the 2004 one? Because I've seen the 2004 one.
Yeah, because I guess they did do a second remake. I guess I was thinking of the Sarah Michelle Gellar one from 2004. I've seen the original, the Japanese. I haven't seen the American remake. And I guess it's kind of tough because the American remake is like a standard narrative kind of movie, right? Whereas the Japanese version is almost like anthology stories about the Grudge. Yeah. Okay. So at least the remake from 2004 is its own movie, right? It's not trying to do the exact same thing as the original. Is that right?
I think so. I can't remember. I haven't seen it in like a year.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Jamie says Davey Burnt Offerings is very underrated. Bette Davis's last film. All right, Bette Davis creeped the hell out of me in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. So I'll have to check that one out. Still not watched 2013 Evil Dead, but I've got it in a bag with 499 other physical. Well, I would say, Gina, like, it's really damn good. I hope you have a lot of fun with it. I think Fede Alvarez, really shows that he understands the lore and the subject matter and knows how to deliver something that Sam Raimi would be, really proud of. And I think that's the greatest thing about the Evil Dead franchise. This is the last thing I'll say about Evil Dead. I love that the same producers have been in control of the rights the whole way through. So now, even though Sam Raimi's not making his own Evil Dead movies, he, Bruce, and Rob Tappert, they're all selecting the writers and the directors of these movies. And so they're handpicking, almost like general managers of a sports team. They're handpicking people that they believe can go out there and win a championship for them. And I think that's very encouraging and something you're not going to see from Friday the 13th or A Nightmare on Elm Street. So very happy that we've got that there. What's happening? We got Darren from the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. Hell yeah. Welcome into the chat, Darren. Evening, Davey, and fellow Brit dude. There you go. Getting some love there.
What can I say?
Yeah. Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast is a channel I've been watching for years. And Darren and Frank are massive inspirations for, not only just myself as a content creator, but so many others out there. Really love what they do with their best and worst series, a really creative way of reviewing movies in a way that's just all their own. So that's really cool. And actually, Darren, I went over to your guys' channel and I was like, I just want to make sure that they haven't literally done this exact same topic. And I couldn't find it. So hopefully you guys haven't. But welcome to the chat and thanks for hanging out with us. Let's see here. All right. So moving on to... so that was your number 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. All right. That's one I saw in the theater and the girl I was dating at the time started crying. That's how much she didn't enjoy that movie. I felt so bad. I felt like a jerk. But yeah, man, it's brutal. It's really tough. And I would imagine if you're a young woman watching that movie in the theater, it's a much different experience than being a young man watching that movie in the theater. So my number 2 is, man, and this one, it's really close with my number 1 and number 2. My number 2 is Black Christmas from 2019. Fuck this movie. This movie is a remake in name only. And the fact that it's sorority girls on a college campus during Christmas. But really, they should have called it, I think I've heard Dave McRae say this before and probably other YouTubers, they should have called it something like Slay Girls, but like SLAY or something like that. It should have just been its own story. It doesn't take anything from Black Christmas. It doesn't take anything that's uniquely Black Christmas. There's no Billy. There's no slasher element even. This movie is not a slasher. It's like a cult kind of movie. We were talking... I think earlier before we hopped on the stream, Shay, talking about, being able to make a political point in a way that's creative and where you use the story and you do it in a clever manner that, where people can see the point that you're trying to make, but you're not smacking them in the head. And this movie is a movie that really smacks you in the head, grabs you by the shoulders and shakes you and is like, don't you get the point of our movie that like men are bad? And it's just sort of like, it seems so just basic and flat and like that they don't really have anything to say, so they're just trying to hop on like the trend of what was in the news at the time. And there's a couple performances here that are okay. I really don't understand all the black goo and the fraternity cult aspect of it. Like, really doesn't make any sense to me. And this movie, my wife and I watched it, she hated it. We would sit there and pause and like just so we could like rip it apart and then start again. So this is a movie that I'll probably only watch this movie ever again as like a watch party to do like a Mystery Science Theater, like make fun of it and tear it apart, because this one's really, really rough. What do you think of this one, Shay?
So I think I've only seen this once. I don't particularly remember it. I don't actually own the original Black Christmas, but I own a like a rental copy of, I believe, a 2015 one. Was there a 2015 one or something around that time?
There was an 06 version.
Yeah, it must have been that one. And I've seen that one as well. I don't like this one at all. I agree with what you were saying, and it also goes back to what we were saying earlier. If you're gonna have a political point in the movie, you should have like a reason for it and not just shove it in there.
Mm-hmm. At least be clever with it. Like, I totally get what they're trying to say. And I mean, it's true that terrible things happen on college campuses, terrible things
Yeah.
happen on high school campuses, terrible things happen in churches of all faiths. And anywhere where there's a power structure, there's going to be people that abuse it, because within any group that you have good people and bad people. It's just the way it is, right? And it felt like this movie was trying to make oh, no, no, no. This is the way it is every single time. And this is the way that every man is at this age. And I felt like that was just a little just on the nose, I think, for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of people kind of, maligned the 06 Black Christmas when it came out, and they were like, oh, this is so terrible. And it's really interesting to see how, this 2019 version was so bad that the way that now people look back on Black Christmas 06 is completely different. Like, people look back on that way more fondly now, because it actually does feel like a tried and true remake, a little bit of a requel with the 06 one. But yeah, I think the original Black Christmas, for me, every time I rewatch it around the Christmas season, I enjoy it more and more. And I think I see its influence in so many movies and slashers, not just Halloween. But I think it's great that it's just talked about more as the years go on. I think that's really important for a movie that's, was revolutionary at the time and never really got its full due, because Halloween was the movie that kind of like, took all the buzz for the slasher craze and everything like that. And it's really awesome too that not only did Bob Clark, direct Black Christmas, and I think he wrote the story for it as well, but then he turns around and does A Christmas Story, almost 10 years later. And so he has two of these classic Christmas movies that couldn't be more different than one another, really couldn't look more different. So it's really cool to see a director that understands, like, hey, depending on the genre, I'm going to shoot a film differently. I'm going to approach the work differently. And that's a true artist right there. And not only did he do two great Christmas movies, but he also directed Porky's. I don't know if you've ever seen Porky's, Shay. It's an amazing sex comedy from 1981. I think it's one of the best like teen comedies of all time. It's hilarious. And so it's really cool that Bob Clark's career was just kind of all over the map, but so much success no matter what he tried to do. So shame on you, Black Christmas 2019, for sullying the good name of Black Christmas. And let's see here. I saw Jamie said earlier, I refuse to even watch Black Christmas 2019. Yeah, I would say if you want to have a laugh, Jamie, it's not like so poorly made that it's unwatchable. It's just really, really poorly written and not very well acted. For sure. Gene hasn't seen any remake of Black Christmas, and I won't. I totally get that. Give me the OG Black Christmas and It's Me, Billy. Yeah, It's Me, Billy, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 coming out here next month. I'm really looking forward to that one. Just to sort of wrap up that original Black Christmas story. I think what Bruce Dale and Dave McCrae have done is a great homage and love letter to the original. And I think that's really cool that a fan film can act as a true sequel. Because unfortunately, Black Christmas never got a true sequel. So, one of those horror films that was just kind of left hanging out there. Let's see here. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, looks like we're all caught up. Oh yeah, the mom scenes and the Agnes stuff in in 06. Yeah, there's certain things in 06 that doesn't work as well as others. And I'm going to close this poll just with 4 votes, but 75% of folks say that Black Christmas 06 is better than 2019. That's pretty good consensus there. And yeah, moving on to your number 1 worst horror movie remake. What you got, Shay?
Well, just because you did actually mention it beforehand, I actually have an honorable mention for just before it's not my mic, apology.
No worries, man.
Before I get to my number 1, I just have to say honorable mention to the new Crow movie. That sucks. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
There you go.
But yeah, no. So number 1 worst horror remake, in my opinion, is the Nightmare remake. it's a pile of shit, and I hate it so much. From the CGI to the fact that they make Freddy a kiddie fiddler to just the terrible writing in general. Like, the opening was cool. Why don't you make something original including that? Like, you can do other stuff. You don't just need to just like remake the entire thing. Like, I thought the opening was probably the best part of the movie, and then the rest of it's just like kind of boring. Like, as you said, they had like that part where it like looks like Freddy might be innocent, then they just completely go back on that. Like, you could technically still have that with the actual original one, because they didn't really say any of that in the original one. I mean, they said he was a murderer, but they didn't really see any like evidence. But like, still,
yeah, because they make it sound like it was some sort of like filing error or some sort of mistake in court that got him off in the original. So they do allude to the fact that like, oh, he was guilty. It was just a technicality that got him off, right? I think that's what the mom says, but she's drunk all the time. So what the hell?
That's true. Yeah.
The worst parents in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, all of them are drunks.
Yeah. I mean, even if they wanted to do like a requel, they could have done that, but I don't really, even now, I don't see how they do that with a Nightmare on Elm Street, because technically they already did that with like some of the sequels where they brought Nancy back, but they had new characters in there as well. They technically already did that like 30 years ago, so I don't know how they do that now and try and make it original. Like, but just talking about the like remake, I own every Nightmare. This is the thing.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
It's all the way down there. I'm not getting up and reading for it, but I own every Nightmare movie. I've got like the collection of it, except that one, and I'm never going to buy it.
Yeah.
Just because I hate it so much.
Yeah. I had a really tough time. Like with this one, it's another one like the Child's Play remake where I tried to watch it years ago. And even though like the first scene is probably the best scene looking back, that actor that they chose, like Pretty Boy McGee, whatever that guy's name is, like I say this all the time on my channel. I don't like, if you're pretty, that's great, but please be able to act as well. And so I see in a lot of these movies, they hire people that are like good looking, but can't act. And I think that the guy in the beginning of this is not the best, doesn't put in the best performance there. But I agree with you that the concept, like the way they started the movie was really interesting. And yeah, this movie, it does just kind of have an identity crisis, like either be a requel reboot or be a straight up remake. Like, stop playing around and pick your lane. And honestly, like, I do think like making Freddy innocent would have been, even if you kept everything else the same in this movie, if you at least made him innocent, like that would make it to where people wouldn't be as vitriolic when they talk about this film. Because it would have at least given it its own tinge, and it would have made Freddy kind of sympathetic. So then you have like a launch pad for a series with like a different take on Freddy, where he's sadistic in this way because that's what he's been turned into by the parents of Elm Street. Instead of being, in the original series, it's great. It's just an extension of who he was when he was alive on Earth. He's just, now he has supernatural abilities. Whereas you can make him sort of that tragic villain in a reboot series if you did have him really be innocent. And I think it would be very like apropos for the time that we're living in now, because nowadays, as soon as an allegation comes out, people just assume that something is 100% true. And then we find out that like, and then maybe we find out like years later, like, oh shit, it's not really as clear as we thought it was when the news broke. I'm not talking about anyone in specific, but I've certainly seen it go that way a couple of times when something comes out about somebody. So I think it would have been an interesting examination of kind of mob mentality and the way that how like regular people can turn into monsters, and create monsters.
I would love to see that, but I mean, surprisingly with like this movie, this was my first Nightmare movie. I remember I watched it when I was like 10 on Netflix in like Spain, and even then I didn't like it. So that just kind of shows you that your movie's kind of bad when someone who knows nothing about movies at the time even thinks it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, because I was about that age when I started getting into horror, and I would pretty much, I would watch anything. And when I
Yeah,
was about that age, you saw everything on TV, so things were like, they were cut for television and everything.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it was a little bit easier to kind of get that gateway experience, even if you're watching Friday the 13th or A Nightmare on Elm Street. But yeah, I think I was in like fifth grade, so I was about 11 or 12 when Freddy's Dead came out. And I
yeah,
enjoyed it as a kid just because it was all brand new to me. But
yeah,
I mean, obviously, Freddy's Dead is not a great film, but when you're that age, that version of Freddy kind of works because at that point he was sort of like geared towards kids.
yeah,
Whereas, yeah, the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street is just, I mean, it's dark, literally dark. It's poorly lit, bad CG, just doesn't know what kind of movie it wants to be. And I mean, more power to the folks that enjoy it. I know that Brett Mann over at Good Real Hunting really loves the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I don't see what he's seeing, and it's a movie I'll never watch again unless I'm doing like a watch party for a request or to make fun of it with somebody like you, Shay. Maybe we could do that sometime.
yeah,
Just
man. I
take our
I would be down with
bottom worst remakes and just eviscerate them on a live stream.
that. That's a great idea.
And Jamie says, I try to give every movie a fair shot. Most of the time, I can find something I like about most movies, even bad ones. But the Nightmare remake left me speechless because it was so bad. That's really well put. It's almost like, what can you say? You know, I don't shut movies off very often, but it took me 2 tries to watch that in its full.
Yeah.
And we got Sub-Zero in the chat. What's happening, Zub? How you doing? And Gina's still got A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 recorded. Delete it and save yourself the space, Gina.
Fair enough. That's probably the best thing to do.
There you go. And yeah, and it's I guess another thing just to drive your point home, Shay, we haven't seen Freddy since then, other than in fan films. So that kind of
Yeah.
speaks volumes right there. There's multiple reasons why these characters don't make it back. But this movie really kind of killed the franchise for a bit. And the best version of Freddy that I've seen in a really long time was Dave McRae's portrayal in Dylan's New Nightmare. So,
Yeah.
I would love to see Freddy make a comeback. I think there's an actor out there, Jared Bankins, who I really like. I have a video on my channel that sort of outlines why I think he would be great. He was in the Twisted Metal TV series. He's in a movie called Off Ramp that just came out, and he's just got this look and ability as a performer that I think would be great for Freddy's personality. And he's not a household name, which I know everyone wants Bill Skarsgård. But guys, Bill Skarsgård can't be in every movie. We can't do that. And Mike Flanagan, God bless him, can't direct every movie. So we need to start looking out for some people that, have great talent that maybe are looking for an opportunity to prove that they could be in the caliber of somebody like Flanagan.
I mean, I'd say the guy who made Evil Dead Rise, Lee Cronin, would be a good pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lee Cronin's a great director. I think Demian Rugna, who did When Evil Lurks, like I'd like to see him tackle one of these franchises, or maybe even, I mean, When Evil Lurks is sort of similar to Evil Dead. The way that I described it when I would tell people about it is I'm like, it's like if Christopher Nolan did an Evil Dead film, because it has that like real world kind of grounding feel to it. But yeah, somebody like that's just got a skill with the camera. Like we need to think about how skilled Wes Craven was, not only as a storyteller, but also visually. You need to find somebody that's sort of in that same caliber. You can't just, hire someone willy-nilly. We just want to, you got to make sure that it's appropriate, that you're finding the right people, and yeah, Jamie, Birdie loves the remake. Yeah, he sure does. He's kicked me out of streams jokingly kicked me out of streams for talking bad about it. He brings me right back in. No big deal. Sounds like Chris has got a question. Do you think that the Halloween TV series is still going to happen? And what's your thoughts on the show? It sounds like they're going to do it. I fully believe in Malik Akkad. When he says something's going to happen, he's the one rights holder and producer that I absolutely trust. I got to meet Malik at H45 last year. He loves the fans, and he is a gentleman and a party animal that was engaging with the fans, going up to people, starting conversations with groups of fans, and having a really good time. And I fully believe that he's going to do a TV series. And I fully believe that they're going to continue the movies here. Probably in a few years, we'll probably get a new Michael Myers film. I'd like to see an anthology series where each season is a different legacy continuation of one of the loose ends in the great Halloween timeline that's choose your own adventure. But they're probably going to do something that's a little more bankable. However, Chris, really quick, I have zero faith that the Crystal Lake TV show, I highly doubt it's even going to happen at this point, and I have zero faith that it's going to be anything worthwhile because they've scrapped everything they were working on with Brian Fuller, and they've restarted with their new executive producer, which I think is very concerning. That's my thoughts on that. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Shay. Feel free to chime in. I talk a lot, man.
Don't worry, I talk a lot as well. For me,
you rant.
Yes, it's in the name. It just happens sometimes. But for me, I think it is still going to happen. But I have an issue with the whole thing, where they announced why a cinematic universe? Are we going to have different killers? Can we bring back my favorite character, Corey Cunningham, and everyone else's favorite character, Corey Cunningham? Are they going to make another Halloween Ends horrible bomb, and then they're just going to wait 5 years again to start over? That's my main issue with it.
It's going to be interesting just to see how they approach it. I hope the TV series isn't really about Michael, and I hope it's not about Loomis. And if it is about Michael, I hope it's something where they can do a legacy sequel to Halloween 4, where we bring Danielle Harris back, and 5 and 6 never happened, and you just get to see a 6-episode miniseries that's just about that continuation. Then maybe we bring Josh Hartnett back, and we do a legacy follow-up to H2O. You could do a sequel series to Season of the Witch and modernize it. There's a whole bunch of really fun directions they could take it, and you could do 5 or 6 seasons, call it good. And then you've got a bunch of really fun, what if adventures in the bank for fans to talk about and love for years to come. And I think Corey Cunningham, it would have been really cool if after Michael was put in the grinder, we shoot back to Laurie's house and Cody's body isn't there anymore. That would have been pretty awesome, that the spirit fully goes into him, and then you can continue it with him. I really like Halloween Ends, but I know a lot of people don't.
I mean, I also kind of enjoy it, but I've got a friend who despises that movie.
Yeah.
We do watch parties every now and then, and I may or may not have made 2 videos as a presidential style campaign to get people to go vote for Halloween Ends.
That's hilarious.
So that one, thankfully, and we got to watch the masterpiece that is that movie. But
I think no matter how you feel about the story, I think technically it's a really well-made film. So I think that at least you can say that about Halloween Ends, and it's got arguably the greatest soundtrack and score in the entire franchise, which is certainly saying something for sure. All right, moving on back to the task at hand. Just want to say what's up to Liana really quick. How you doing, Liana? One of our great channel members here. And Matt Facci just became a YouTube channel member. Welcome, Matt. So happy that you've joined the Death Squad, as Jamie Hart puts here so eloquently, supporting my guy. Thank you so much, man. Your number one was the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street, and deservedly so. That movie is fucking terrible. Excuse my language if there's any youngsters in there. Well, I guess you're kind of a youngster a little bit, Shay, but I think you've probably heard that word a few times, I would imagine.
I use that word fairly decently, so I don't really care.
Us Americans and you Brits, we're all known for our filthy mouths, of course. The English language is a beautiful thing. So my number one worst horror movie remake, and this is a horror movie remake that I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen, but man, this one is inadequately made, poorly acted, even though it has a couple of bigger performers in here, and a huge slap in the face to me personally, because it's a remake of my very favorite zombie film of all time, and that is Day of the Dead from 2008. This movie is so friggin' bad. It's got Mina Suvari from American Beauty and American Pie. Apparently she only makes movies that have America in the title, other than Day of the Dead 08. And Ving fucking Rhames is in this movie, and I have no idea how he got talked into being in this movie. because he's in the Dawn of the Dead remake, which is a lot of fun. And then 4 years
Yeah.
later, he jumps into this pile of shit. Nick Cannon is in this movie as well for some reason. And this movie just gets everything wrong. It's like it's almost like the Black Christmas 2019, where yeah, they have military members and it's a zombie film, and they have a character, like they name the characters after the characters in the original Day of the Dead. But this movie just totally misses the mark. You know, there's really no substance at all. It's basically like a direct to video zombie film. I think it's a movie they probably made with the intention of putting it in the theater and then realized how bad it was and put it in the can before releasing it. But yeah, let me know in the chat or in the comments below if you guys have seen Day of the Dead 08, because it is, man, it makes a Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 seem watchable, at least for me. And I know that I'm a huge Romero fan, so that's probably why I feel so strongly about this one. Have you seen the Day of the Dead 08, Shay?
No, I haven't, but you know, to help figure out how bad it is, you know, maybe you can like put up another poll so they can like figure out.
Yeah. There we go.
I agree.
Horror and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and this one is oh my gosh, I'm trying to like remember all the terrible, like there's, so have you seen the original Day of the Dead?
Yeah.
So you know Bub, like the zombie with the heart of gold in Day of the Dead. So they have a character that becomes like, you know, he's a guy named Bub that becomes a zombie. And before the like before he becomes a zombie, we learn that he's vegan. That's like one of his things about being a character. And then when he becomes a zombie, it's like he doesn't want to eat people because when he was a human, he was vegan. Like they do like stuff like that in this movie where you're just like, what the hell is that? Like, yeah, maybe I think that Romero sort of alludes to the fact that when you become a zombie, you retain certain things about your personality. Like there are little certain hints there about the person that you used to be. But if you're a zombie and you're not interested in like eating flesh, like that to me, I was just sort of like, oh my gosh, this movie just really doesn't get it. Like really doesn't get what's happening here. Hell yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Jamie. Yeah, you guys can click on that link and give Shay a sub. Hilariously bad, says Jamie. Yeah, I pretty much knew this one was going to be at the top of my list. And my honorable mention, I should have mentioned it before. My honorable mention is there's another remake of Day of the Dead from 2017 called Day of the Dead Bloodline, and it's really bad too. Maybe not as bad. Yeah. At least it calls itself Bloodline instead of just being called Day of the Dead, but it is a remake. Absolutely. Gina says the Day of the Dead remake is hilarious. I laughed like hell. Love Ving Rhames. I love Ving Rhames too. Yeah, for sure. And then Jamie with the best line, like arguably the greatest line in cinema history right here. I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time. It's amazing. Rhodes is amazing. One of my favorite villains of all time. So yeah, that's my number one worst horror movie remake right there. And let's see here. Oh, I forgot to do a poll. You told me to do a poll and I didn't do a poll, Shay. My bad. I would be surprised if anyone picked that one over the original. But I guess, you know, the original has its haters as well. Although I think a lot of people have come around on George Romero's Day of the Dead, you know, as the years have gone on. Especially like when I was younger, it was really difficult to even find a copy of Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead. So when I believe it was Anchor Bay like re-released those in the early 2000s, it was like finally there was like a good copy to watch, you know, a good cleaned up transfer and everything. So yeah, we can go ahead and jump right into our top 5 best horror movie remakes. Oh, and we've got Paula Fitzhenry in the chat, one of our great channel members here. Welcome in, Paula. No worries about being late. You can always scrub on back and check out our top 5 worst, or you can hang out for the top 5 best and watch the worst after. So yeah, top 5 best horror movie remakes. Go ahead and take it away, Shay.
So my number 5 is It 2017. I didn't grow up with the miniseries, so I don't hold it as like high regard as a lot of other people do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really find either version scary, particularly
Mm-hmm.
just because, like, I mean, with that one, it doesn't really look scary, and then with this one, it's just a lot of CGI, but like
Mm-hmm.
where it's like shaking around, and
Sure, the
it's
camera shake. Yeah.
very goofy, and I just sort of laugh every time it does that. But I still like this one. I think this is probably one of the remakes where Bill Skarsgård's actually good in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I think the younger cast members did a great job. They're in like a lot of stuff now. I'm pretty sure the one who plays Bill is also in another Stephen King film, which a lot of people forgot about. I think it was like Mr. Hannigan's Phone or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I watched that. I can't remember that, but um, and I do enjoy this a lot. Like, it's got some pretty good kills. Like the opening scene of this one is so good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've read the book and I've watched the miniseries and I've watched this, but I think this is probably like one of the best like bits of it media besides maybe the book. Like the second chapter 2 kind of was a bit meh for me. I feel
Mm.
it just wasn't as good as this one. If I felt it was a bit too long, but I felt this one was just about right. With length as well, and I love how like the cast are able to like show that they're all mates and everything, and it's just like great.
Mm-hmm. So when you say, you mean chapter 1, you're not, or do you sort of put them together like like chapter 1 and 2? Are you kind of putting them in that number 5 spot together, or are you strictly talking about chapter 1?
I'm talking about chapter 1. I wouldn't really put
Okay.
like chapter 2 somewhere up here.
Yeah, it's funny. I enjoyed chapter 1. I never even watched chapter 2, and I heard that it also had like a bunch of stuff that like wasn't in the book that they just sort of like made up for the movie, which I think is kind of odd because I know the book is massive. So I'm just sort of like, it seems like there's
It's
enough
like
to pull from the book,
1,300 pages.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always that one bit in the book which I'm always glad they're never doing film, but I'm surprised they've
Yeah.
never gone into like the turtles and stuff because they got like
Mm-hmm.
space turtles and everything. Maybe that's going to be in Welcome to Derry. I want to see the space turtles. I need the
Yeah.
turtles, but yeah,
Yeah, and it seems like I think I know what you're talking about, like the ritual,
yeah,
kind of the group bang kind of thing.
yeah,
There's also, I haven't read the entire book, but I did start it at one point and just never finished. The whole opening scene has some really upsetting, I mean, like really
yeah.
well written and well deserved, like upsetting bits in there. I don't feel like they ever really tackled that either. Did they? Did they
No,
end up incorporating that in the new movies?
I mean, they have like a lot of like the guilt that like Bill feels and everything, but like I feel there's a lot of stuff from a lot of Stephen King's books that like aren't incorporated into like film.
Yeah.
That's why like about Doctor Sleep they incorporate a lot of the stuff from that well. I feel like they don't do like a few things from that still, but I
Mhm.
feel it was really good though. Like when they're like turning, like when they're like losing the shine, I guess, like the shine
Yeah.
vampire. That's like described brutally in the book, and
Mm.
I feel they did that really well. But I, I, I can't specifically sing. Besides
Yeah.
that, lovely little mind gangbang scene that they have there. But besides that, I don't.
Yeah, Stephen King always finds a way to put some weird stuff into his books for sure.
Yeah. Well,
He's an odd duck.
He was on some lovely Parmesan cheese during this writing process. I'm pretty sure the
He was on some
Colombian,
what? What did
Colombian fun powder.
Oh, yeah, yeah, man, that I don't know if you've ever seen that trailer for Maximum Overdrive where he is just all coked out. And they're playing like the Halloween 3 soundtrack, I think, during that trailer. That's I don't know if everyone else
Maximum
notices
Overdrive
that.
it's just Maximum Overdrive, just a thing in itself. It's so cringy,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So wild though, too. And we've
yeah.
got Her in the chat, coming over from your channel, Shay. Welcome into the chat, Her.
Welcome.
Great to see you. My Chunky Jordy loves the remake. The miniseries is great also. Jamie really enjoyed part 2 as well. Don't mention the turtles. It makes no sense. My dad couldn't even fathom it. The opening scene in part 2 was okay. So I need to check part 2. I guess I should, just to finish the story pretty much.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed part 1 just fine. I wasn't head over heels with it, but I'm not head over heels with the miniseries either. I think the It story is like, interesting in concept. I just don't know if I've really like fallen in love with everything about it that much. Although I do think, the character of Pennywise, I think both looks have been really really well done. I like the looks of him in both series. Let's see what the audience says here. So which do you prefer, the 90s miniseries or 2017? We've just got 6 votes. 67% say 2017. So I'll go ahead and end that one there. And yeah, so my number 5 best horror movie remake is Night of the Living Dead from 1990. I really enjoy this one. I know a lot of people, maybe it's their favorite, or they prefer it over the original. I still prefer the original. I love the way zombies look in black and white. And, the first time I saw the original, I was maybe 16 or 17, and I was, just blown away at how good it was. I didn't think that a zombie movie from 1968, I was like, how good can it be? I'm sure like all the newer ones are so much better, and just, that kind of like arrogant attitude about it. And when I sat down and watched it, I was like, man, that was really damn good. Like I really enjoyed, Romero's style, the writing style, the shooting style, the look of the zombies. And of course, like, we were talking about being able to subtly make your, political points or sociological points. And I think Romero knocks it out of the park here. I think that everything is like, all of those things are implied. And a lot of people always bring up, how awesome it is that the lead is a black man, especially in 1968 here in the States. But Romero was really upfront about hiring, I believe it's Dwayne Jones was the actor's name. He said he just hired the person that put in the best audition. The character wasn't written with any color in mind. So it wasn't like, I need a black man to play Ben. It was like, I'm going to hire the person that puts in the best performance here. And it's just a great, like, like Bob Ross would say, a great happy accident that it ended up, putting another layer onto the story, making things more complex, especially with the bleak ending of the film. Really kind of puts a whole different tone. And, Romero was kind of well known for, not having the happiest of endings, or at least sort of leaving the endings in the air. In the original Night, it's a bummer, and in the remake, it's a bummer as well. I think Tom Savini does a really good job directing here, even though that's not his forte. I like that Romero rewrote the script and gave Barbara a little more meat on the bone to work with. Tony Todd really carries this film. I think he's just spectacular. And the reason why it's not higher on my list is I think there's this spat of horror movies in the early 90s that sort of look almost like TV movies. The lighting is a bit too bright. They just don't look as cinematic or theatrical. And that for me kind of holds it back a little bit. But I still really enjoy the Night of the Living Dead remake from 1990. What do you think? Have you seen it?
I think I've seen this one. Most zombie films I've seen sort of all blend together because I've seen so many of them.
Yeah. It's the one in color.
Okay, then I think I have seen this one. Then yeah, no, I do remember liking this one a lot. As you said, Tony Todd is like a legend. He's just great. I also agree with you. I love the lead as well. And I like how you were saying, like, George Romero didn't just hire him for the sake of it. He does, which I think is probably the best thing. Hire a person based off their skill. Get the best person for the job, and just see how amazingly they'll do it. And they definitely did it here. But yeah.
Yeah, the remake here does a great job, I think, and it's in the era before everything was getting remade, so I think it's really cool. And it's awesome that, Savini got to, do a little something different here as well. I don't know if he's ever directed anything since then, but I think he does, you know, a pretty admirable job here, you know, coming from a visual effects, practical gore effects kind of background.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the story of Night of the Living Dead is, you know, just a classic one. You got Bill Moseley in here playing Johnny at the beginning, which is a really cool little tidbit of info as well. And yeah, this one is one that I try to watch every year. Yeah, Carbonite. I think you're saying, yeah, it's Coy is the person who gifted you that membership. Hell yeah. And then I just want to say what's up to our guy Eli Cortez. Man, Eli is not only a great channel member and subscriber, but he sent 3 parcels my way filled with movies. It's amazing the stuff that Eli sent to me just from what I can see right now. Pumpkinhead, Original Halloween 2, and Piranha all on Steelbook. Sent me E.T. on Steelbook as well. Demons 1 and 2 Blu-ray pack. He sent me a copy of John Carpenter's latest record on vinyl. Eli is the man. If Eli shows up in your chat or in your comments section, Shay, nurture that relationship because Eli's one heck of a dude. All right, so now moving on to your number 4 best horror movie remake. What you got?
So my number 4, I know a lot of people for some reason don't like this, but I think it is like freaking awesome. So my number 4, I have Friday the 13th. Is it 2012 or is it 2009?
2009. Yeah, 09.
I think it's just sick. Like, as much as like I like Friday the 13th, I always find the original kind of boring.
Yeah.
There's so many, like, I was rewatching it recently because I did like a whole review thing for it. I completely forgot that it's literally just scenes where they just like got like a hammer and they're just bashing it on like nails into a wall. I'm just like, get to something interesting. But I mean, I appreciate it for what it did to horror. Obviously, like it's like a landmark horror film. But with this, I mean, they made Jason properly scary again. Like he kind of became goofy in like the last few, but like you know, with Jason on a boat, I'm not calling it. It takes Manhattan. I'm calling it Jason takes the boat.
Jason takes a boat ride. Yeah.
Yeah, Jason takes a boat ride. Jason goes to space, and Jason becomes a slug.
Jason becomes a slug. I love that. I've never heard that. That's great.
But yeah, pretty much, I think this has like some great kills, like, and it also just Jason is like sprinting at some points, which is just really cool.
Yeah.
And then he's like got traps and everything, which is what you expect. Like this is a guy living out in the wild by himself. He's gonna like have something around to protect him besides just a machete. And I like how they sort of do something similar to. Is it? I always forget it. Is it Tommy Doyle or is it Tommy Jarvis? I keep mixing these two names.
Jarvis. Doyle is from Halloween. Jarvis is from Friday the 13th.
So it is Tommy Jarvis. But so I just think it's just great because they sort of do something similar to what they do with Tommy Jarvis. They have the girl who reminds Jason of his mum instead of reminding him of himself. They sort of take elements from the first 4 films and just sort of like make it new and make it like really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I saw this come in really quick. 1990 Night of the Living Dead work print is available on Internet Archive if you don't know. That's great. I mean, I've got it on, I think just DVD is what I have it on, which is my wife's favorite version of physical media. But that's cool to be able to check out a work print of that. Let's see here. It's funny because our number 4 is matched up. I think. Oh no, my number 5 was your number 4 last time, but my number 4 is also Friday the 13th, 09 here. I love this movie, and when people came out and were detracting from it, and the critics were saying like it's just a bunch of hot, annoying people getting killed by this slasher, I was like, have you seen these movies? Like, yes, they gave us everything.
Exactly.
Like, so
that's just
like,
Friday the 13th. It's just hot, annoying people like skinny dipping and getting like stabbed by Jason. That's about it.
I love it. It's like you went to McDonald's and you got pissed off that they gave you McDonald's. Like, shut the hell up. Like you're going to Friday the 13th movie. Like, embrace what you know what you're going there for. So don't trick yourselves and think that you're going to get something that's supposed to be like highbrow or something that it's not supposed to be. I felt like, yeah, like you said, the compression of the first 4 films is done really well. The Derek Mears is amazing, one of my favorite Jason performances, and it's a damn shame that we didn't get at least one more movie with him. Not only is his performance really good, I love his look, kind of like the Victorian jacket that he wears. I think it's the most interesting Jason's ever been to me, and the most like kind of character study we've ever seen on him. I always liken it to he is a spider and Crystal Lake is his web. You know, he has those tripwires, the trap doors, the underground tunnels, and he's just somebody that's protecting where he lives. If you don't go to Crystal Lake, Jason's not like Michael Myers. He's not going to go into the suburbs and find you because he just has to kill. He's basically like, you've invaded my space. This is the only place I ever felt safe with my mom, who I loved. And now that you're here, like, I have to kill you because I don't feel safe anymore. So I love that approach. Obviously the opening, everyone, even the people that don't like the movie, say they love the opening, and the opening's absolutely incredible. You get like a almost 15-minute mini movie to open the movie, which is a really cool concept. You get I think every kill is a different implement of destruction, and every one is a different, like, something you would do at camp. That's like a great thing that they brought back, is the whole camp thing, right? He uses the bow and arrow, he throws the hatchet, like, he's got all these different methods of killing. There are some really epic shots, him standing on the house with the backlit shot there. There's a really cool inventive piece there where he like stabs I think he's using like a poker from like a fireplace. He stabs the cop and it goes through the door, and the camera moves like through the door as well, which is a beautiful, like, that's something that's a great,
floorboards as well.
Yeah, going through the floorboards at the beginning, really like visceral and scary. Marcus Nispel, who directed this one, also did TCM 03. He does a great job there as well. I think this one, he tops what he did in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I do like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, but when I went back and watched it on subsequent viewings, I was left kind of like not as entertained. But I watched this 09 Friday remake once a year, probably. Like, I really dig it. I think Amanda Rigetti actually has a really good performance here. Danielle Panabaker as well, for being actresses that, could just phone it in if they wanted to, and I think they do a great job. I think it's Travis Van Winkle, the guy that plays Trent, who everyone hates. That's a good thing. You hate him because he does such a good job. Like, that's why you hate him. It's great.
Another thing as well, Trent was in Transformers, so technically, if you think about it, Jason and Optimus Prime are in the same universe, and I love that.
It's wild. Yeah. Michael Bay put them together. He's like, I'm not going to give this guy a last name so he can technically be in both movies. Yeah. So it's really cool. And so this movie has like kind of everything. If you're a Friday the 13th fan, it's got everything you're looking for. I think maybe the soundtrack is the only thing that, to me, because Vincent DeSanti, who did Never Hike Alone, that whole series over at Womp Stomp. Amazing, such a friendly guy, awesome gentleman, and a great filmmaker as well. He brought up, I hadn't really thought about it, but he was like, the music is, for me, like, really jarring. So the last time I watched it, I was like, yeah, the soundtrack doesn't fit as much. I really didn't notice that it affected the way that I experienced the film, because this gives me so much of what I want from Friday the 13th. And, again, unfortunately, they never picked anything up. So I guess you can say that this was the nail in the coffin, similar to 2010's A Nightmare on Elm Street. But I would say that this movie, for me, is in, like, it's right around my top 5 for the franchise. I love this remake. Yeah, that's a good pick for sure. Let's see what our chat's got going on. Let's see here. Carbonite Dreams dropping $2. Congrats on 1,000 subs. Well, thank you so much, Carbonite. Really appreciate you, hanging out with us in the chats, being part of our community, being a member of the Death Squad, and really appreciate the 2, man. When we opened up membership here just about 2 months ago or a month and a half ago, I was like, man, if I could just pay one bill with membership and super chats, that would just be a cool moment, just to be able to, like, my internet bill is like $130 and we're like right there. So So mission accomplished, and really appreciate you guys making it happen, and just being awesome members of the community and fueling everything we do here at the channel. Horror and stuff, I think I popped this one up earlier, but says it's one of the only good Friday the 13th movies. So I enjoy a lot of them, but yeah, I do think it's certainly in the top tier for sure.
Yeah, he has a lot of hot takes that he loves throwing around.
I like it. I'll take all the hot takes you got. You know, I know we're sort of just getting to know each other here, Shay, but I love, like, I find it fascinating the different opinions that we have about the movies and music and all the art that we take in. There's a lot of serious things that people have differing opinions on, and sometimes those things can drive people apart. So I like to think that when we come and hang out here on YouTube and hang out in the chat, that we can sort of let that stuff go and we can focus on the things that we have in common, which is our love for film, our love for horror, and our differing opinions should just be something that's gives us new perspective. And maybe the next time you watch one of these movies, you feel a little bit differently. It's kind of cool to see just how we can be there for one another and share our opinions. And then we got Jamie dropping over to your stream so she can leave a like and some love. That's awesome. Yeah, guys, if you haven't hopped over to Shay's stream to at least give him a like and give him some watch time, please feel free. We want to spread the love here at the Davey Deathray channel. And, we want to lift each other up. That's what we do here as a community. And we help each other out. And, I feel like I'm only really competing with myself. I don't feel like there's any other kind of competition. I feel like we need to, a rising tide raises all ships, and there's plenty of room for everyone. Absolutely. Gina says the remake is my favorite in the franchise and my favorite Jason. Derek Mears is great. Yeah, Derek Mears puts in the most intimidating version of Jason I've ever seen. Absolutely. Jamie prefers the OG because of the sentimental reasons, but has more fun with the stupendous remake. Perfect nipple placement. You know what I mean? It's how many movies say that? Only one. She says, that's why I don't believe Alice is dead and the opening of 2 is a dream. No way Jason could travel to a city to get her. That's just silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a really good point. It is an odd way to open up the sequel, especially because we have no idea how long it's supposed to take place after the original film. The Friday the 3rd, hopefully if they ever do the TV series, they can kind of clean up the timeline a little bit and make it make sense, because he's a kid in the first one and then he's a grown man in the second one. So voted for the OG, don't like the remake. Every character is bad. Jason has a hostage. Yeah. Well, he has a hostage because he's conflicted. He's like,
yeah,
is this my mom? Like, she looks, because obviously Jason's, mentally diminished and everything. And I think they handle that. They handle it really well in this one, for sure. But yeah, let's take a look at the poll. Thank you for reminding me, Gene. 12 votes, and the remake is winning 58% to 42%. I'll leave it open as we go through the rest of the chats here. Trent is my guy, my kind of guy. That's hilarious. Yeah, sometimes chicks dig it. Sometimes chicks dig an asshole. It just all depends on how you go about it. Can't find how to auto renew my membership. Got gifted before. Yeah, I think so, Gina. If you're on your phone, I think you have to follow a link. So I have a link in the description below, and I think you have to follow that link and you can set up the auto renew. Or if you're on a computer, it may be a little bit easier to set that up. The hot take from horror and stuff. Here you go, Shay. Hot take is there are only 4 decent Friday the 13th movies, but of those, only 2 I would consider good movies. Not a fan. Okay. I mean, I think my top 3 are like Jason Lives, The Final Chapter, and Part 2, and I think those are all really solid.
Yeah.
But again, it's just opinions on art, and it's all about taste, Awesome. Thank you, Big Rod, for going over and liking and subbing at Shay Rants. We want to see him get that little bump in a sub count when he hops off the stream here. Yes, Big Rod, the continuity is awful. You do have to just shut off the brain. Exactly. And I think with horror in general, you kind of have to do that. And I think that's just one of those things as fans, we kind of accept that with horror. Yeah. There you go. Jamie's dropping in the info on how to renew that membership. I just watched my internet Eric here today, and he thinks about 6 months from the end of the OG. Okay, gotcha. About 6 months. Okay, so how does Jason become a grown man? All right. Cool. Moving on to your number 3, Shay. Number 3 best horror remake.
So, before I just well, I haven't seen the original of this, but I just like this movie a lot, and I know it is a remake, obviously. But so we got John Carpenter's The Thing. It's phenomenal. It's probably like one of my favorite horror movies that there is. If not one of like the best horror movies out there. We just ignore the prequel. We just forget about it. We don't need to talk about it. So
what's really odd, real quick, I'll let you continue, of course, but what's really odd about the prequel is they set everything up to make it look just like it looks, you know, in the 1982 film when they go and visit that outpost. But the prequel is basically just a remake. Like it just follows beat for beat. So it's really odd that it's not even a different story. But go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, I would prefer like a sequel anyway, not like a prequel.
Yeah.
But no, I mean it's just great. Like it's got really good tension in there. Like, and the practical effects are so good. Well, I think they are some of my favorite in like a horror movie, and it's still got some effects which are like kind of hard for CGI to like recreate. Which we obviously saw in that prequel. I'm sure that was a good few years ago now, but I don't think they'd be able to probably do it now. I think it would still look a bit off, like especially just with like the actual like thing at the end. But I mean, Kurt Russell was great in the movie. He's just really good as a lead, and also John Carpenter's direction is amazing. I love all his movies, and yeah, I mean, as I said, I haven't seen the original, but I'm just gonna go out on a whim and say it's probably not as good as this.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I haven't seen the original either, and I heard it's good, but it is definitely a different story. It's a totally different approach to I think the short story is called it's called like Who Goes There or something like that. And I think the original, it sounds like, is a little bit more of a direct interpretation, whereas in Carpenter's remake, you know, he kind of modernizes it and you know, gets a little more fantastic with it for sure. Yeah, that one's showing up here later, so I don't want to say too much because I'll definitely dive into that one when it shows up on my list. But I think that's amazing. I mean, that's a great pick. It's I think arguably, like, I love Halloween to death. It's my favorite slasher series. Michael Myers is my boy. But I think that it's, you know, I think that John Carpenter's The Thing, you could say, is a bigger accomplishment as far as a film goes.
100%.
Technically speaking, for sure. And a really great example of, you know, because Carpenter always did the music to his, or not always, but most of the time he's doing the music to his movies. And I think it's a great example of him, you know, letting that go and letting Ennio Morricone do the soundtrack and have it work like really in his favor. So I think that's kind of cool too. He sort of takes a chance and does something that's sort of off script for him, and it ended up working really well for the film. Absolutely. And we got Jamie jumping in saying The Thing is one of the best remakes ever. Personally, I like the prequel. Anything I didn't like was because of studio interference. And I think that's true, Jamie. I don't think there's any bad performances in the prequel. I do. I like what you said, though, Shay, about wanting a sequel. I'm not a big prequel guy because it's like we already know what happened based on what you see in the 1982 film. So prequels for me.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the
ahead.
issue with prequels is you know what's going to happen because you can literally just see like the original film anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one of those things where I'm just like, I'd rather see, like, to me, I'm sort of like, man, what happens when the Thing gets in a city? Like, how long does it take to just assimilate the whole city? Like, and I know maybe that's not, you know, maybe that's not as fun of a movie, or maybe it's more of like an action movie, but at least it would be a different kind of movie and not trying to recapture the same isolating spirit of the original. Well, not the original, but the 1982, The Thing, for sure. But yeah, performance wise, I didn't see any issues. It just seemed kind of superfluous for sure. Let's see here. It looks like Jamie's walking Gina through everything to become a member and renew that membership. We love you too, Paula. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And if you haven't gone over and subbed at Shay's channel, There's a link in the description below, and Jamie's been posting it. Whenever you get a sec, Jamie, if you don't mind posting that link again, that would be great.
Thank you.
And the prequel is, Jamie's kind of echoing something that I said, or maybe she even typed that before I said it. But yeah, the prequel is, like, to me, I was like, this is a remake. Like, everything is happening in the same kind of beat as the 1982. Gonna go out for supper. All right. Love you too, Paula. Have a great dinner and a great rest of your evening. Take care.
See you. Have a great evening.
Pearl was a prequel that did it right. One of the few prequels that I would go to bat for. I still need to see that one. I still need to see X and Pearl. I know, everyone. Don't hate me forever. All right. So going into my number 3. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, number 3.
Right. My number 3 is David Cronenberg's The Fly from 1986. Right? It's 86, I believe. Right there, almost like everything you said about The Thing, you can say about The Fly. I think you can say the same thing about The Blob from 1988. You have these 3 remakes of like 1950s and 60s movies that are amazing special effects features and just like triumphs. Chuck Russell directed 1988's The Blob. He's known for A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. So he's one of those guys that's in that horror sphere. And yeah, The Fly remake is just such a great body horror movie and kind of like an old school tragedy, like a Hunchback of Notre Dame kind of tragedy where you feel, even though our main character is making mistakes and a bit too arrogant and, falling victim to his own devices, you still feel bad for him with everything he's going through. And man, the practical effects are amazing here. I think it's Rick Baker that did these effects. I could be wrong, so don't, of course, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat or in the comments. But the effects are amazing. And man, at the end, like when he grabs the shotgun and like puts it up to his head and everything, and there's like that little bit of humanity left in him, like it doesn't bring a tear to my eye, but it certainly makes me like get goosebumps and really feel something there. And I think that for a movie that's this outlandish and this effects heavy, to kind of bring you back home at the very end and make you feel that it's still a movie that has heart, is just absolutely incredible. I think Jeff Goldblum puts in such a magnetic performance here, and Gina Davis is really, really good as well. I think this is where they met because they were married shortly thereafter. And I think this is a film where they met. And yeah, this movie just works for me in every single way. Absolutely incredible. I love The Fly from 1986. Have you seen this one?
So I have not seen any Fly movies. I've got to get around to it. But I'm going to at some point. But I'm currently rewatching all the Nightmare films because I'm reviewing them all. But
oh, sweet.
I'll probably get around to it after that.
Yeah, it's a really like. I think you'll really enjoy it, especially if you like The Thing. I think The Thing, The Fly, and The Blob are just like a perfect trio of 80s remakes that are just like they fit so well together. And they're all love letters to what came before them, and they all have amazing effects. And yeah, really, really good shit. Especially, practical effects are expensive, and that's why they do CG now. Yeah. I just, there's something like you had kind of mentioned when you were talking about The Thing. When you have something that's in camera, it's always going to look more real. Like it's always going to look like it's part of that world, in a way that it's so much more difficult to get with CG. But yeah, my number 2, 3, where are we at now? I'm already confused. That was my number 3, right?
That was the 3, yeah.
Okay. So my number 3, David Cronenberg's The Fly. And let's see here. Gina says, sorry, I'm messing up over here. I hate The Fly. I can't stand the things. Well, then maybe The Fly would really hit home with you. Yeah. It's really, really good. And so moving on to your number 2, Shay, what is your number 2 best horror remake?
So my number 2 is The Invisible Man 2020. I think it's great. So I originally watched this in 2020 when it came out. I'm pretty sure I watched it with my mum. And the reason I remember that is because I remember someone covering my eyes when she was like slicing like her arm to like get Adrian to like grab it. But I just think it's great. Like I love the like advanced technology version. But I have seen the original, and I think that's like great. Like I love like the behind the scenes of how they did the Invisible Man in that movie. But with this one, of course, it is green screen CGI, and I think Lee Winnell is like a really good like director. Like I'm excited for his Wolfman film. I know they had that thing at Halloween Horror Nights, which I'm hoping isn't the design. I'm hoping that's just some random dude that just maybe jumped there and just started like moving around, maybe. But
Yeah.
um,
I would imagine that's not the design. I know everyone jumped on that, but there's no way. There's no way that that's going to be the design.
That looks like something which would be in like some like cheesy straight to like DVD or straight TV like werewolf movie or something. But
yeah.
Just talking about like this movie, it's just so good. Like it definitely incorporates like just like gaslight and psychological abuse and things like that into the film perfectly. And it doesn't just like shove it in your face all the time. But it is obviously there. I think Elizabeth Moss's like performance as like our lead is just really, really good. And I like how they make you think that the brother is spoilers, but they make you think the brother is dead, and then it turns out that his brother was the one who's dead, and then like he's still alive at the end.
Oh, see, I've never seen this one yet. I need to check it out. It's just another one that I missed. Don't worry about spoiling it for me because I don't mind. Like sometimes I read about movies before I watch them anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard a lot of really good things about this. Yeah, and it sounds like, I mean, a lot of people trust his vision with Wolfman because of, you know, how well this one went. Now, he directed or he helped write the Saw movies, or at least in the very beginning, right? And then as far as like The Conjuring, he acts in those. Did he help write those as well?
I think he did as well. I know he plays Adam in like the Saw movies, but
yeah,
them as well. Or at least the first 3, I think he helped write with James Wan, and then they just sort of like dipped. But yeah, I know he did that. I'm not sure with The Conjuring though.
Or is it? I might be thinking of Insidious.
They did Insidious, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe he helped like produce The Conjuring because I know that him and James Wan are like really good friends. I think they went to film school together, is where they met. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of them's on a project, the other one's somehow involved, even if it's just helping out with a little cash money. Yeah, I got to check out The Invisible Man because I heard really good things about it. And then Necro and Jamie Hart bring up Hollow Man, which is another, like, I missed that one as well, but that was like the Kevin Bacon Invisible Man movie that came out way back when. I think Elizabeth Shue is in that, and I've heard really good things about that movie too. And yeah, the effects in that movie, from what I see, like they still look pretty damn good for especially when you think about when it was created.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen Hollow Man. I've got that somewhere downstairs on DVD, but I haven't got it up here. But I have got it. I've just not watched it yet.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I mean, they probably would have called it The Invisible Man, but didn't want to pay for the rights. Probably what Child's Play 2019 should have done, as we were saying earlier. They kind of went that route. Real quick here, Eli says, hey Davey, I was able to get an extra copy of Late Night with the Devil Steelbook with the press kit, and we'll try and send it your way on Monday or Tuesday. You're amazing, Eli. Thank you so much, man. You are too sweet. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that movie. I'm looking forward to the big old box set that should be arriving any day now, but having a steelbook on top of it, you are the man, Eli. Thank you so much. Lee Winnell wrote Insidious 3 for sure. Looks like he wrote the original Insidious as well. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing, is somebody that's, you know, you can trust him because he's worked in so many different facets in the horror world, you know, acting, directing, writing, producing. Those are the kinds of people we want, you know, involved in horror, the kind of people that are going to take everything on, you know. I mean, even, you know, everyone talks about Sydney Sweeney because of her physical attributes and everything, but I think what's really cool about her is, you know, she was a producer on Immaculate. And so this is a young actress that's becoming, or, you know, I mean, she's become a star.
Yeah.
And she is not only performing in horror movies, but investing in them. And I think that's like a big thing. That's one of the ways we're going to get great movies. That's with everything that went on with Melissa Barrera, you know, not having her contract renewed to come back to Scream. That's just more incentive for her to, you know what, take some of the money you got, become a producer, and become one of those decision makers, you know, on a film. And then you get to put your money where your mouth is, not only as a performer, but as a fan of the genre, for sure. So yeah, moving on to my number two. My number two is Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead from 2004. This movie, when it was announced, I would go to this site called darkhorizons.com all the time back then in the early 2000s. And when this was announced originally, they said it was going to be PG-13. They announced that there was going to be a zombie baby. It was like all of the news coming out about it was like, oh no, how can this be good? And then, you know, partway through production, they're like, actually, okay, it's going to be rated R. So I was like, thank God for that, because I don't know how you make a proper zombie movie that's PG-13, you know, in like today's era or even 20 years ago. And I was just so hesitant about it. You know, first time director. I think at that point, Zach had only done, he had won awards for like Jeep commercials and directing music videos. That's what he was known for. And so didn't have any idea who this guy was, but man, I went and watched it opening night. I was living in Bozeman, Montana at the time. Watched it opening night. The crowd was amazing. It was like a party in there. I loved the movie. You know, even though they have so many more characters and it's just like a souped up, you know, amped up version of what we got from George Romero's classic. I felt like the Dawn of the Dead remake acknowledged what was great about the original and also just wanted to modernize it, you know, bring it to the modern age. I don't feel like there was any disrespect at all. I really love the characters a lot. I think the kills are fantastic. Every performer here works for me. And especially like that last act when they decide to leave the mall. I mean, it is just nonstop action for a good like 25, 30 minutes. And they've got a great heartbreaking like ending that sort of leaves it up in the air, which I thought was amazing as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the awesome soundtrack. I mean, you know, I think it's When the Man Comes to Town or something like that by Johnny Cash at the beginning. I probably have that song title incorrect, but and then Richard Cheese's version of Down with the Sickness by Disturbed. Like that's just the perfect time for that montage scene. Zack Snyder knows how to handle the horror, how to handle the fun. And there's each character, you know, is distinct and unique. And I really love that and appreciate that about this movie. It was almost my number one. But my number one is just so damn good that it couldn't be denied. But yeah, Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead from 04, one of my favorite Zack Snyder films. And I'm hoping that you like this one as well.
Yeah, I did.
Hell yeah. Now, you know, you were born what, 08? Is that right?
Yeah.
When you were born? Okay. So what is it like, you know, when you watch it, when you see a movie like this and it's something that existed, you know, before you were around? Now, did you see the remake? Have you seen the original as well?
I mean, yeah, I have seen the original. Most of the time when I like watch a movie from before I was born, I won't just think like, oh, this is like before I was born. I'll just think like, oh, it's just a movie. Like,
yeah,
I'll just watch a movie for the sake of it being a movie. I know a lot of people who are like my age. They'll just be like, oh, this is old. I'm not going to watch it, and I'll just be like, you're just like really stupid. Like, it's a good movie. Like,
yeah,
a lot of them haven't even heard of these.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, like, did you see the remake before the original? That's the reason why I asked, because you know, it's like it's one of those things where it's like it could be the case, right? You know, where you end up seeing that remake and then you go back. So I was just curious to know, like, how you feel about, you know, the way that these two films are similar, but still different in certain ways.
Well, I mean, I saw the remake first, just because I thought that was like the only one of them, because it was. I just saw that it was the most recent. Like, oh, this looks like newish. I'll watch this, but no, it was a remake, of course, but I still like both of them.
Yeah, they're both great. I'm so happy that they're not exactly the same, because I can enjoy them for what they are, you know. And I don't think that Snyder was trying to do the same thing. You know, it's a breath of fresh air to see a remake that can do that. And it's a tall order to take on something like Dawn of the Dead. I mean, it's one of those things that most people say, like, how dare you try to remake this movie? And I thought that, you know, Snyder knocked it out of the park. That's one of those movies that James Gunn wrote before he was directing his own movies. And now look at where James Gunn is. So it's like the next time you watch Dawn of the Dead, just think about that, because you're like, yeah, I can totally see why this guy's career went in the direction that it's at. And now he's like the head of DC and making a Superman movie. It's just to go from Trauma. Dude, James Gunn wrote Tromeo and Juliet. Like, you know, Trauma movies are about as bottom of the barrel as you can get. So to go from that to, you know, to writing and directing, they are fun for sure. They're fun, but they are very like, holy crap, like I'm watching this.
I mean, I love. I just have to get rid of all my South Park figures. I do love a good bit of Trauma. I got Toxic Avenger Pop stick.
There you go, good old Toxie, yeah. Yeah, and he wrote. So I think James Gunn, it was you know, the Scooby-Doo movies he wrote. I think he might have even directed both of those, or at least one of them, and he did Slither, which is really good.
He didn't direct the first one. I know that I did the watch party of that the other day, so I know he didn't direct that, but he did write it.
For the Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, Scooby-Doo, yeah.
All right. And yeah, so it's amazing to see where these people can come from. And especially, when you watch the 2004 Dawn of the Dead, you can totally see it. Like the quippy, really fun writing, you know, something that we definitely saw in a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, stuff like that. So I think it's fun to go back and look at people's careers, where they came from, and how they've grown. And also just to me, it's kind of inspiring too. It's like, man, you can come from some place like Trauma and then be the head of, you know, DC's entire, you know, film department. It's amazing. And boom, look at that. Eli has that same Funko Pop that you've got. Hell yeah. All right. So I did put up a poll. Thank you for reminding me, Gina. I need you guys to keep me on the straight and narrow. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you. So there is a poll up there for Dawn of the Dead. I would imagine there's 4 votes now, and the remakes winning the entire thing. That's shocking. I mean, I would probably pick the original because I love the slow burn kind of feel of it. The first time I saw the original Dawn of the Dead, when Roger got bitten, it broke my friggin' heart, man. I felt sick for the whole rest of the movie. Like it made me realize that getting to know characters and having those mundane kind of moments with them, like, really makes you feel like they're your friends as well. So that probably puts the original over the top for me, but they're both so great. And moving on to our number 1 picks here. We're rounding out the stream here. What is your number 1 best horror remake ever?
So I know we did kind of say this technically isn't a remake earlier, but Evil Dead, it's just so good. Like, Fede Alvarez, he's a phenomenal director. What he did here with Evil Dead was bloody brilliant. I love like how it's sort of similar to the first one, but at the same time, it's a different story, different characters, and the gore as well. Like, I love me a good bit of gore. So
oh my gosh,
I like about this one. It's able to keep like the sort of like DIY aesthetic that the original movie kind of had, but it's a bit more like high budget at the same time, and I just think it's great.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, this is one that I looked forward to after seeing the first trailer. I was just like, man, this looks like it has that same spirit of the original, you know, not really going for the jokey kind of side, not going for the Three Stooges approach, you know, and a lot of practical effects. I think that's a big thing. Like they do use CG from time to time in this one, but a lot of practical effects, and you can just really feel it, you know. Even the raining blood scene at the end, they use like, it was like 3,000 gallons of blood that they used or something crazy like that. It was the most blood ever used in a movie.
Yeah.
They probably could have done some of that CG if they wanted to, and they went practical, which is awesome. What's her face? Jane Levy's performance here is just bonkers, just off the wall, crazy good. Like, such an amazing performance. It was the first time I ever saw her as an actor, and man, she just blew me away with her intensity. And I think give some of the credit to Fede, because, you know, if you watch the movie with the commentary, he really put them through the physical parts of it. Like, he would make her run around in circles before they would shoot certain scenes, so she really would be out of breath. He would kind of push her into that method sort of direction. And then even some of the behind the scenes stuff on the Blu-ray, where she's talking about how she's having a tough time sleeping. Like, the movie was so exhausting and so intense, like everything that they were doing and the subject matter, that she really was like suffering from sleep deprivation. And that probably helped with you know, the way she looked and the way she performed. And I think the biggest, like the best thing this movie did is it didn't try to redo Ash. So even if you consider it a remake, it didn't try to like, let's have another character take on this character that's so synonymous with the actor who performed it.
It did something. It did its own thing.
Yeah. And another thing they did great is they find a reason to put them out there. You know, like Mia is going through addiction, a very serious addiction, and they want to clean her up. And then not only that, there's a reason for why they get into the book, because, you know, I think it's Eric is the character's name. He's a school teacher. So it makes sense that he would be curious. And also you get the idea that he doesn't really take, like, to him, like religion and spirituality is sort of just like superstition. So he doesn't sit there and think that this book could ever really have any like real power. So there's really like, there's actual proper motivation for opening up the book and for him making the mistakes he makes. Like, yeah, you kind of hate him as a character, but then also at the same time, he's the very first one that's like, I think I know what's going on, and it's the fucking witchcraft down there and the book that I messed around with, and like, we are in the shit. And everyone else is like, really? And he's like, look, I'm serious. Like, we need to like deal with this. Like, he makes that jump right away where he's like, I realized I screwed up, and now I'm sort of a true believer. Yeah, man, Evil Dead 2013 is incredible. My second favorite in the franchise to the first. Let's see here. I just want to say what's up to a few folks that jumped in. We got Sam from Our Life in Horror. How you doing there, Sam? Great to see you in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. Horror and Stuff says Evil Dead is so good. Having it at #1 is a good choice. Hell yeah. Mia is Sam's favorite final girl. There you go. Great pick, man. Jane Levy is incredible. She's also, I mean, Don't Breathe is a really fantastic film as well. Again, Fede Alvarez, the intensity, and Jane Levy, man. I'll take all the Jane Levy you got, and I hope she returns to the Evil Dead franchise. I'd love to see her come back, especially now that we know the 3 books exist in the same world. I think it would be great to see the final girls from Evil Dead 2013 and Evil Dead Rise team up with Ash. I think it would be really, really cool. I know Bruce retired, but I think maybe he would come back for something like that. Even if it's a passing of.
I'm pretty sure they're doing like an animated show with him now. I think I saw
that would be really cool. That's a good way around it too. Why not expand the universe? You know, I think Evil Dead, it's one of those things where it's, man, because they're in production of 2 Evil Dead films right now. And it's like, man, Evil Dead could take place anytime, any place on Earth. That's the great thing about it. So I want to see, you know, real quick, I'll just mention a couple ones that I want to see. I want to see North Africa during the European colonial days. I want to see an Evil Dead that takes place there. So something in like, you know, like Libya or Algeria or something like that. And then I'd love to see either like the Necronomicon on one of Columbus's ships, and that's how it gets to the United States. Just a movie that takes place on one of those boats. You know what I mean? And then a Wild West Evil Dead film that just takes place over one night would be amazing. I would let Tarantino direct if he wanted to. I'd let it happen. I just think that would be really fun. You know, Damien Leone doing an Evil Dead film, I think would be really cool. So, you know, the possibilities are wide open for Evil Dead, and I think it's one of the most promising, consistent horror franchises out there. Absolutely. All right, let's see what else we got. There isn't a bad movie in Evil Dead franchise. There it is, horror and stuff. You know, very similar. Yeah, very similar feelings there. I want to see a sorority house find the book and open it. That is a really good idea.
Cool.
See, the ideas, that's the thing about Evil Dead is you could just, there's so many possibilities. Like, you know, you might as well try to put out one of these every other year and they could all have a different flavor. They could all be up and coming directors, you know, that just, you know, need a chance to break out into the mainstream a little bit more because there's so much talent in the community. And I do want to see creative people work on their own stuff, but sometimes having that breakout, you know, working with somebody like Sam Raimi might be the way to do it. We got Barry. Wolfman's got nards in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. Barry says, congrats on 1,000 subs, my friend. Very well done. Thank you so much, Barry. Real quick, I'm going to take it aside. I've been watching Barry for about like 8 years now on YouTube. He's one of the YouTubers that really inspired me. He and Lee from Drum Dums are two of the big ones that I've been watching the longest. And Barry's been cool enough to, you know, bring me on his channel a couple times now. And it's been great. And it's surreal to be on someone's channel when you've, you know, looked up to him for so long. And Barry wouldn't have gotten to 1,000 subs, man, without people like you and everyone else hanging out here in the chat. The support you've given is incredible. And everything you do on your channel is an inspiration, man. So thank you so much for hanging out and hanging out with a fellow Brit here, fellow UK folk here with SHEARANTS. So have a really fun time working with the folks across the pond there, as it were. Let's see here. Saying, oh, you guys are talking about backup accounts. I thought there might have been something about a movie here. Everyone's saying what's up to Barry, making him feel welcome. Thank you so much, Sam. Yeah, it just happened last night. We were watching Jason Lives and Cody Leach jumped in and saw that we were about 4 subs away. So he said, hold my beer, and went on Twitter, and the rest is history. Hell yeah. Oh, and Chunky Jordy, Gina is going to be watching Game of Thrones. All right, so back to the task at hand. Mine, right? You gave your number one. It's Evil Dead. Yep. My number one top best horror movie remake is John Carpenter's The Thing. I mean, this one, it's got to take that top spot for me because, like I said, arguably it's his best film. And, you know, even though the original is a classic in its own right, I think what John Carpenter did, you know, making it his own thing, really pushing the boundaries of special effects with the brilliant work by Rob Bottin, who I think was just like, he's like 21 or 22 or something crazy when he did this movie. I mean, it's absolutely insane, the level of detail and the impressive nature of the special effects here. The isolation is amazing in this film as well. You can tell the actors really, you know, built that camaraderie and that friendship because the performances and the chemistry is really, really good here. You mentioned it before, Kurt Russell, fantastic. I mean, I love when Kurt Russell and John Carpenter are together. I just, for my money, I don't know if it gets any better as far as like, you know, director and actor. Maybe Samuel L. Jackson and Tarantino have like that same, like they'd be right up there. But regardless of the movie, it's just, I love every single time these guys work together. Let's see here. Wilford Brimley, who I knew as the Quaker Oats guy and the guy that does commercials about diabetes. It's just remarkable seeing him in this film, like really putting in a rock star performance. Love the Ennio Morricone soundtrack, as I had mentioned. And okay, a little bit of a personal thing. I grew up in Juneau, Alaska, and it was filmed up there in the ice fields. So they shot up on a mountain in the Juneau ice fields, and they would fly a helicopter down to get beer for the crew. So they would, which is just an incredible, you know, kind of story to tell about, you know, I was born in 82. I wasn't, you know, obviously wasn't in Alaska at that time, but I grew up there, spent 23 years in that city. So, you know, hardly anything's ever filmed there. So it's really cool and near and dear to my heart for that connection as well. But man, there's no better movies to put on during a snowstorm than The Thing or The Hateful Eight. Like those are the two, and they're very similar to each other. I always say that The Hateful Eight is like Evil Dead, The Thing, and a Western all combined. And yeah, The Thing for me from 1982, number one best horror remake. Boom. Sticking a fork in it. The lists are done. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything like that, Shay? Or, you know, you had mentioned a project you're working on. Is there something coming up on your channel, or maybe even something that's already there that you're really pumped on and that you want to share with the folks here hanging out in the chat?
So, yeah, actually, so me and two other creators, Horror and Stuff, he was in the chat here. I'm not sure if he's still here, but Horror and Stuff, myself and my buddy Sip and Ice all got together at like 4 in the morning my time because we were just on a call. We wanted to do something productive. So we have a 3-hour long ranking video for like a load of horror franchises coming out soon. I've been editing it all day, so hopefully it will be coming out this week at some point, probably Friday. So yeah, that's pretty much the big thing I'm working on currently.
Hell yeah. So guys, yeah, go over there, hit the sub button, hit that notification so you know when that video drops. Did you do something for Friday the 13th? I was so busy with work and everything yesterday that I just may have missed it, but did you drop something yesterday?
I did a live stream ranking the films.
Oh, sweet.
I did see you did a watch party though, which was cool.
Yeah, that was fun for sure. Yeah, my wife and I are big fans. Our first date was on a Friday the 13th, and we got married on a Friday the 13th. So yeah, that was really cool. But live rankings are really fun. I did one of those where I did like a tier ranking or tier maker ranking. So yeah, guys, go ahead and check out, you know, give him a little bit of a push here on this Friday the 13th weekend and give that live a watch on the replay. You know, the way YouTube is with lives, it's so weird. They can sort of cut the legs out from under them, you know, the day after. So it really is helpful for all content creators. You know, if you're interested, if you check out those lives after the fact, drop a comment down below and let Shay know what your ranking is for the Friday the 13th franchise. Get him that engagement going. And yeah, man, this was really fun putting this all together. I think we did a pretty damn good job here. And for as much as I talk, and for the fact that you are called Shay Rants, I think we were pretty economical with our time. So another victory there for us as well. And then there you go. Jamie's dropping that link again in the chat so everyone can click it and hit that sub button for Shay. Shay is, you know, I don't know if you want me telling everybody this, but guys, Shay's just 16 years old. Been doing this, you know, hitting it hard for the last year or so. And, you know, more mature and wise beyond his years. So it'll be really awesome to see just how you grow as a YouTuber, man. Like, you know, finding your voice is something that's probably always going to be happening. I truly believe that every video I do, I'm finding my voice more and more and getting more comfortable with just, you know, being on here and everything. So it's going to be, you know, amazing to watch you grow. And not only as a YouTuber, but just grow into, you know, a young man. I mean, you're a young man now, but you know, as you progress. And yeah, it's going to be really awesome. So guys, sub now because it'll be really cool to look back here in the next, you know, few years and just see, you know, how much Shay's grown with his channel and everything else. And yeah, we'll probably collaborate on something here again in the future, I would imagine. We got to do what were we going to do? A Nightmare on Elm Street watch party?
2010.
We'll have to like tape our eyes open so we don't fall asleep and hate ourselves forever. So Barry's got one here. Just a quick little bit of input for him. Texas Chainsaw 03, The Hills Have Eyes 06, Evil Dead 2013 are his top 3 horror remakes. That's a fantastic list, Barry.
That's going to be great.
Yeah, I still need to see The Hills Have Eyes. That's one of those everyone tells me those remakes, or that remake is amazing and so much better than the original. And I really loved the 03 Texas Chainsaw. I think it just got edged out from everything else in my list, but I do really enjoy that remake as well. I think that probably is my second favorite in the franchise, next to the original Texas Chainsaw. Hell yeah. Of course, Jamie, you're always great. Really want to thank our mod, Jamie Hart, here for hanging out with us. Be sweet to her in the chat or else. And really thank you guys for hanging out with us, both on Shay's channel and over here on the Davey Deathray channel. All of the subscribers. Yeah, we just hit 1,000, ran right past it last night during our stream, which was amazing. And still sort of processing that and thinking about what the next steps are just to ratchet everything up here as we continue. Really thankful for all the channel members. We've got like 48, I think, channel members right now, which is incredible because that just opened up like a month and a half ago. So thank you so much to everyone for purchasing a membership or gifting a membership. Thank you to everyone who dropped a super chat here today as well. You know, those mean the world. If we can, you know, make things better over here on the channel and pay some bills, that would be incredible. So really appreciate you guys. And of course, our patrons. Thank you so much as well. So let's see here. Before we get going, I guess I kind of rounded up anything that you've got going on, Shay. Tonight, I'll be doing a 1,000 subscribers celebration stream here in about 4.5 hours at about 9 p.m. Eastern. So anyone that can join that, we'll see if my voice can hold up for a while. It certainly will be a relatively short live stream, but I just want to throw you guys some love. And then I'll be back on Monday with another live episode of Start Bench Cut with Matt Facci from Facci Cinema. So yeah, if you haven't yet, hit the like button on both of our streams over here and then over on SHEARANTS channel. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Drop a comment if you're watching after the fact, and really appreciate you guys for hanging out with us rather. Love everything you guys do here. You guys fuel the channel, and man, it would be really, really boring without everyone in the chat being awesome. So thank you so much. Appreciate you all. And let's see here. I just want to make sure we're not missing anything else. Sam says, I've been telling Brendan I want to review Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 because I didn't hate it. Well, we need a little bit more of that so we can have some proper discourse out there, right? You got to even out the algorithm. That'll be a fun one. Looking forward to it. Funny Games is basically a shot-for-shot remake, but I like them both. You know, Necro, I've never seen those movies, but I've heard really good things about the original and the remake. So I'll have to check them out here sometime in the near future. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us here on this stream covering the top 5 best and worst horror movie remakes. I really want to thank SHEARANTS for not only joining me today, but for coming up with the idea and reaching out and floating that idea on over to me. Really appreciate you reaching out and getting this going here, Shay. So thank you for being the reason for the season on this stream.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I've been able to say it yet, but congratulations on the 1,000 subs. I did only start watching you this week pretty much, but congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. No, I really appreciate that. Of course, everyone's been so sweet about it, you know, and now all I can think about is like, all right, now how do I get to 5K? I'm just never satisfied. You know, you just want to chase that next one. I'll enjoy the 1,000 here for the rest of the day, and we'll have some fun on that stream tonight, but then it's back to it and what we can do to keep everyone happy that's already here and bring new folks so we can keep on growing that community. And yeah, best of luck to you on your, your road to 1,000 as well. Hopefully we're getting you a little bit closer to about 750. I think you're about 709 when I saw the other day. So hopefully we've moved the needle there a little bit for you. Every little bit is a nice little dopamine hit. And hopefully, you know, it fuels you in what you're doing when you're editing that 3-hour video that you've got there. All right, guys. Well, that is going to wrap it up for us. I'll see you all later on tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. You guys are amazing. I love you all. Thank you so much. He's been SHEARANTS, and until next time, I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.